So today for you, I got a incel panel. We're doing our best in order to avoid talking about Stephen Bonnell's sex drama. However, it is popping up every now and then. So if we talk about Stephen Bonnell's sex drama in the middle of the incel panel debate, do not be alarmed. Let's go ahead and bring Whick on. He is a panel host in the Twitch and YouTube political debate scene. Looks like we have some newcomers that I haven't seen before, and we have Soy Pill. Maybe this is Short Fat Otaku, I'm not sure. But either way, we should get a spicy fight out of it. So let's go ahead and take a look.
We've some great people here today. We got Mooncake, we got Dev, we got Stardust, we got Rabid Wombat, and we got Charlie. What are your thoughts here? Let's start with Charlie, and we'll just kind of go around real quick. What the accusation has been levied, the evidence has been presented. What are your thoughts?
I feel like on the Q-pop Royale debate thingy that we had, you made a couple of points that seemed a little bit incelly to me, which surprised me. Because again, I don't see you like that. I don't see you as incelly. I think one that stuck out to me the most was the discussion of men's feelings not being taken seriously, which I agree with. I agree that men are, not are encouraged to be unemotional and to not express their feelings, and I think that that's bad. But I don't think that women are solely or even, primarily to blame. I think that is, a part of patriarchy, and I think that, men are typically the ones that punish other men the most for expressing their emotions. And I do think that women, very much participate in patriarchy by, discouraging men from showing their feelings. So that was my, those are my thoughts. But also think about I think about men who are not conventionally attractive never being able to get laid. I look around me and all I see is evidence to the contrary. I see men that are frankly horrifying to look upon, with girlfriends and wives, and who are very much loved. Because the thing is that all of us deserve to be loved, and beauty is subjective at the end of the day. I have taste that I think many of my friends have described as unusual. I typically don't go for people that are conventionally attractive. And so again, those are my thoughts.
We'll get into it, I'm sure. I don't want to give my opinions too much before we get around the room. Let's hear from Mooncake real quick.
Okay. I think I told you, Wick, that I was more, I guess, devil's advocate on this one, because I do genuinely see both sides. So the meme itself, do I think it's pretty harmless? Yeah, it's nothing I really read home about. I do think there's some truth to it. But I think that comes more from a pretty privilege, so for men and women, where it's kind of if you are unfortunately ugly or not conventionally attractive, you probably are treated poorly. I do think there's definitely truth to that. But do I think you're incel adjacent? I don't know for sure. I don't think you are, but I guess I have to listen to the rest of the panel to kind of see where that goes.
Okay, you're on the fence. You're a centrist.
Yeah, I'm on the fence about it.
Okay, so let me say why Whick might be incel adjacent, at least from my perspective. Is Whick, I think he's the same age as me. I think he's mid to late 30s. He's a veteran, so he has some degree of exposure. He has some, he's hanging out in Twitch and YouTube politics, which I think Doobie or somebody else in chat, sorry if I'm throwing Doobie under the bus, I promise it's not my intent. But somebody pointed out that effectively he's hanging out with 18 to 25-year-olds and he's discussing dating problems as if he was 18 to 25. And so it's kind of a question of hey kids, the skateboard meme where Steve Buscemi is hanging out in the high school and he's like, hey kids, how you doing? Or how do you do, fellow kids? And I get that. However, I do feel like there's a last helicopter out of Vietnam sensation with the current sexual dating marketplace, where in the 2000s, it felt like promiscuity, dating, party culture, getting wasted, hooking up with chicks, all that kind of stuff. It was pretty normal. And then I think as social media has taken off, not only, and the economy has kind of imploded, particularly for working class and middle class people, teenagers and young adults have increasingly been staying at home in order to save money so they can build their lives. So they don't have as much independence as a generation ago. And then I also think with the internet, there's just more risk with bad behavior. So yeah, you can get on Tinder and you can get, if you're a good looking dude or a good looking chick, you can probably get dozens of dates, hook up with a ton of people, et cetera, et cetera. But then there's also the risk that something's going to go crazy. You're going to catch an STD. You're going to have a bad sex experience. Somebody's going to be physically or emotionally abusive, et cetera, et cetera. And then also for the people who get rejected, getting rejected is so much easier nowadays. Whereas before we kind of existed in these third spaces like bars, we existed in these third spaces like pool halls and restaurants and all that kind of stuff. Whereas now, since the third space is effectively the internet, you can just send out like a dozen DMs or swipe. I don't know which one's right or left. That's how much of a boomer I am. But you can basically swipe on a bunch of people on dating apps and just never hear from anybody ever. Like people just won't respond to you. And so as a result, at what point of digital rejection do you just give up even trying to find your wife or find your partner? Now, I don't recommend that to you. I strongly recommend you go find your wife and partner. I strongly recommend that you continue to let yourself get rejected. I strongly recommend you go to church and bars and pool halls and third spaces in order to meet other people. However, I do understand why it's easy to avoid that.
Okay. Dev, I sent you the evidence that he presented. Okay, since you missed it. You've seen this, though, before. I showed you this earlier when I was bugging you to be on the panel. So what are your thoughts on this, Dev?
There's nothing wrong with it. I don't see what the fuss is.
That's fair enough.
True. Doobie says they should get an ugly woman on one of these panels at some point. The incels are just gooning and staring at cleavage, ignoring what they're saying. I mean, yeah, we need more ugly women in the panel. Absolutely.
That's basically it. I mean, it's a meme that I've seen around pretty much everywhere. There's obviously some truth to it. When you say incel adjacent, I assume you don't mean involuntary celibate adjacent, but rather the mindset that comes into being an incel, which is a different thing. Either way, I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah, no, in and of itself, just to be clear, I don't think that Whick posting this makes Whick a terrible person. I don't even think this meme is horrible. I think, in fact, there is truth to it. And in much of incel rhetoric, there is some truth, right? Like, if you're attractive, it will be easier for you to approach women. That's just true. The problem is the kind of bitterness towards women that you see that comes out of this. Like you said, people who have sex absolutely indulge in this rhetoric. This is not a...
Thomas Martin says people are not hooking up enough anymore. Go make bad decisions. Check on people. Just check ID. Yeah, like, be safe. Okay, be safe. If you're a late teenager, let's say 17 to 20, then check your state's laws. Make sure you have the Romeo and Juliet stuff, and make sure that you're not dating somebody abusive who's going to take advantage of your inexperience. If you're 18 plus, go date, go have fun, but also look out for people who are going to be like emotionally, physically, sexually abusive. Okay, so yeah, go make mistakes, but make sure your mistakes are legal.
Incel, literally, if you are involuntarily celibate, it's just a huge overlap between people who can't get laid and people who are very bitter towards women. And I think that this, along with other things I've heard from Whick, kind of indicate this bitterness towards women rather than this understanding of how society works.
Yeah, this is actually true. AKA Batasui says the incel community wants women to be more open to 3 and 4 men. Yeah. Actually, hey, you guys want to do a schizo paint stream real quick? You want to do a schizo paint? I would love to do a schizo paint in reference to this. I'm actually going to scroll to the bottom real quick. What are the ways that you guys judge a partner, right? And the reason why I'm asking this is because let's say that there's physical attractiveness. All right. Let's say that there's like personality. Okay. Let's say that there's financial success. Let's say that there's emotional intelligence. Let's say that there's like overlapping life goals. Right. I'm doing an XY axis. I don't know if it's necessary. Oh, yeah. Because I'm doing a 1 to 10. So let's do, I guess that could be like a vertical line, but I don't know. Let's wing it. Okay. So let's put looks. Let's put personality. Let's put success. Let's put, what is it? Like emotional intelligence. Let's put overlapping goals. And I'm not sure if I'm going to do this right on the XY axis, but let's say that there's like a 10, right? Or I don't know, maybe I'll just draw 4 45-degree angles. I don't know why I'm drawing 45-degree angles, but let's just say that, for whatever reason. I don't know if there's 2 points of comparison. It might just be solitary points of comparison. But the point is that if there's somebody, let's say that there's a dude who's like a 1 or a 2 or a 3. But let's say that he has an 8 personality, 8, finance, an 8 emotional intelligence, and an 8 overlapping goals. Then that dude, in my opinion, is overall gonna be like a 5. You know what I'm saying? Like a 5 out of 10. And so that's where like attractiveness is a complex series of variables. And I think where a lot of people get frustrated, especially people who like aren't incels, but they talk to incels or whatever, overall sexual marketplace value, which I already know is like a lot of people don't even like this conception to begin with. But the point is that like a lot of people or a lot of young men will be low on the looks department. They'll be low on the personality department. They'll be low on the success department. They'll be low in the emotional intelligence department, and they'll be low in the overlapping goals thing. And Jedek says, a man with an 8 emotional intelligence, good one, Conor. True. This actually doesn't exist. Never mind. Gen X called me out. Let's go ahead and substantively reduce that. Anything over a 5 is for women. Good point. Oh, let's get rid of that. But let's put I don't know, like a 5. Sure. You caught me. But anyways, the point is that like looks maxers and personality maxers and success maxers and emotional intelligence maxers and overlapping goals maxers, they think that when somebody looks like shit, there's still all these other variables of attractiveness that you can maximize in order to increase your sexual marketplace value. And then also with looks, you can bump looks a couple of points through aesthetic. So through hygiene and decent clothes and through I'm trying to think of what else, but like a good haircut and, getting outside on occasion. That's kind of where looks is controllable. Personality to some degree is controllable. Financial success is controllable. Emotional intelligence is controllable. Overlapping goals is controllable. So are you going to be able to like completely revamp who you are as a person in order to become more attractive to the opposite sex? Probably not. There's probably some hard limits on here. There's probably some ceilings on these things, but can you push these things to the max? That way, even if you're an unattractive guy, you could still get like a date or two, or at least get laid. And I think this is where we get frustrated, or at least like people who interact with black-pilled incels. I think that's where people who interact with black-pilled incels, I think that's where we get frustrated, is because we're saying like, take a shower, get nice clothes, all that kind of shit, right? Then personality, don't be an asshole, don't be abrasive, don't be judgmental, don't be cynical, don't be nihilistic, etc. Don't just be yourself, Paul, because you might be a piece of shit. When it comes to success, pursue your ambitions, get a goal, get a job. Because guess what? Somebody who has dreams and goals is infinitely more attractive than somebody who just wants to sit on the couch, smoke pot, play video games and jerk off. I'm just going to be real. There's not a single chick who wants to sit on the couch, smoke weed, watch cartoons, play video games and jerk off, unless you guys are already financially stable, right? Or she just likes living in the trailer park, at which point, I guess, go off and be a trailer park couple. That's totally fine. And then overlapping goals, I basically mean that if they don't want kids and they want to travel the world, you probably need to line up on that thing, or it's not going to work. And then same thing, if the other person wants kids and wants a house and wants to live in a certain neighborhood, that needs to overlap, or it's not going to work. So, right. So anyways, this is my thing. You can increase your sexual marketplace value, in my opinion, substantively.
And how we need to move forward from it.
Okay.
Randy says, you're saying the ladies aren't impressed with my Xbox achievements? No. No, bro. I tried to show them off to the wife. She's not interested.
I just haven't seen Whick be that bitter towards women, to be honest. So
Fair enough. I haven't either, but I guess we're going to find out as we go. Rabbit, what are your thoughts here?
Well, as a Gen X white Anglo-Saxon Protestant liberal who married an immigrant Asian woman, I see nothing wrong with what you're doing. You speak to me, my brother. And, you know, if you look at the Allied soldiers in World War II, they were literally Nazi adjacent, but we were happy they were. They were on the front lines combating the evil and saving the free world. And I think that's what you're doing, sir. I think when you say that handsome men are advantaged, I think it's true. I think the only place that I might cede a little ground to soy is that you would have to be careful where you're sending.
Gen X is saying that a dude with an emotional intelligence of 8 is like a hot girl who isn't crazy.
People, because these topics, we need strong voices.
Sorry, real quick. Neil says, I disagree. Most women overestimate their emotional intelligence. A lot of women are slurred when it comes to men's emotions. Yeah, sure. But at the same time, like, let's watch a Bachelor trailer real quick. Okay. A trailer for the season of The Bachelor. Because I actually got like lit. My wife wanted me to watch Bachelor trailer. So I'm just gonna turn off the sound real quick so we don't get copyright struck, and I'm just gonna play this for a second. I'm gonna full screen it. Okay, so what are you really seeing? You're seeing chicks making out, and what is making out really? It's like testing your physical compatibility. Do they have bad breath? Do they smell good, et cetera, et cetera? That's like you're testing your physical compatibility. And that's what kissing really is. And then they're traveling all over the world, and there's fireworks and all this bullshit. And so if we actually go to like our incel Volcel chart, okay. Sorry, where's my incel Volcel chart? Where'd I put it? Paint. Here we go. So we already have people who are looks maxed, right? These are, let's be real, people on The Bachelor are between an 8 and a 10. Let me go ahead and actually remove my hashes so they don't confuse what we're talking about. Let's get rid of all those. Then let's do this one. Shift. Okay, so, and then we'll just put overall. So on The Bachelor, we are looking at people who are looks maxed. They're at least going to be like a 7 to a 10, right? For personality, let's face it, a lot of them are very stupid. So I'll put, there's a high range, but that's like the whole thing. You're trying to figure out who has a good personality. For success, I'm going to say it's between a 7 and a 10. For emotional intelligence, they can be incredibly emotionally shallow or incredibly emotionally intelligent. And then overlapping goals, they could be a 0, they could be a 10. And then overall, who knows, right? So the whole reason why I'm saying like, people are looks maxed and they're high success, but personality, emotional intelligence, and overlapping goals, there's a broad spectrum in the Bachelor TV series, is because effectively people have to eliminate the signal from the noise. What is physical attraction? What is overlapping goals? What is emotional intelligence? What is et cetera, et cetera. And you also have to figure out whether or not people are playing you, because people can lie about overlapping goals. People can be competitive there just because they want to be on TV. People can be lying about what's going on. And so this entire thing is effectively like an emotional crash course where you're supposed to be staring at these people and not just listening to what they're saying, but also watching their body language and how they talk and all that kind of stuff. And so I kind of realized like I had to get super drunk in order to watch The Bachelor and The Bachelorette with my wife. But I realized that like reality TV are effectively emotional crash courses. That's what they are. So if you want to figure out like who's lying, who's a snake, who's a bullshitter, who's just using body language to manipulate other people, like there's actually no better crash course than reality TV. It's actually super interesting. Now, I don't recommend watching it as a guy in general, because truth is, it's probably just going to be wildly uncomfortable. But if you already have a girlfriend or a boyfriend and you want to crash course in emotional intelligence, just get wasted and watch The Bachelor. It'll actually help you out a ton.
That are speaking in a rational way, that aren't coming from a place of anger, a place of blame, that instead see women as our allies, as they have been for thousands of years. They are partners combating natural and societal oppression. And I think you're in that camp. So my only contention would be, if you're looking at someone like Xerxes, you need to look at the bulk of their content and see, when I'm handing off these people that I've convinced that I'm a rational actor, I need to make sure that people who are going to piggyback on that trust are worthy of it. But overall, I think you're doing well.
Fair enough. Well, I appreciate that. And yes, the pact, the ancient accord between men and women still is strong today. It is under attack, but we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. Stardust, are you here yet?
Senior Chow says, all of what you described is practiced through normal social interactions. The hard thing in my experience is that incels need continual encouragement from people who they are already connected to. Not only do I agree with you, Senior Chow, but I think that we are in a fraught social environment. People go to work, they wake up, they go to work or they go to school, they come home, and then there's nothing stopping them from just eating food and endlessly connecting on the internet. And I love the internet. The internet's a fantastic tool. It's what allows me to live my lifestyle. Fantastic tool. But I think people are using the internet as a replacement for social interactions. And so as a result, they don't go to third spaces anymore. They don't even bother going to bars or going to billiards clubs or going to I don't know, house parties or going to anything like that, because the internet's right there, and there's booba on the internet, and there's social interaction on the internet. So why would you bother with doing the real thing when the real thing is so much riskier with no guarantee of reward?
You with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Hello.
Hi.
No camera today?
No, I will be on camera shortly. Sorry. Okay. So what I will say is that this meme is not necessarily terrible. But I mean, it's kind of funny. It reminds me of the you guys remember the HR comic where it's like there's a fat guy who's saying something and somebody says call HR, and then there's like the attractive guy and he says something, and then the woman is saying like, oh, you're so sweet. So it kind of reminds me of that. It doesn't seem like the most terrible thing. In fact, my earliest memories of Whick are Whick making jokes about how he is the marriage destroyer of Twitch politics. That men of America should be scared of him because he's going to ruin their marriages. Which it's true, you know. I do recognize that, and you know, I think the fact that Whick is able to go above and beyond with
Doobie says, I think growing up with sisters is secretly the best way to ensure a guy knows how to speak to and just be around women. A lot of men need to figure out the tool set in the field and look like morons. Yeah, but Doobie, I'm not going to lie. What does happen with sister bros, okay? One of two things really happens with a guy who has a sister. Either because their sister is a human being and they like her and they treat her well and they were raised with her and they're protective of her, they view other women as, potentially a human being, and so they treat them well, and they're wholesome, nice boys. But not every woman is going to like that, right? Unless you're an attractive guy who can also beat the shit out of people, and you kind of have like the traditional hallmarks of masculinity. A substantive amount of women are actually not going to be into that, which is weird. Or let's say that you're super attractive and you're hyper masculine. Like I have a friend named Gabe. He's not really a friend, but there's a guy that I went to college with who was friends with my friend, and his name was Gabe. And he had sisters growing up. Well, what he did is he used what he learned from his sisters about female emotional intelligence in order to infinitely play all women at all times. He knew exactly what to say in order to get laid all of the time. And so he took that emotional intelligence and used it for nefarious purposes. So I would say that being raised around women is a double-edged sword, depending on how you use it. The same way being a dumbass man like me is a double-edged sword, because while I am gross and overly masculine. My wife was attracted to that. So she was attracted to me being an emotional dumbass.
With his efforts. For example, he used to, back in the day when I used to host panels, he came dressed up as a dog one time. Okay. Now, what woman is not going to find that attractive? I mean, honestly, you know, like, yeah, isn't that like
That just feels like sweeping if we're taking the topic seriously.
the whole genre for women? I don't know. Anyway, for white women specifically. Anyways,
Oh
so
shit.
sorry, I shouldn't have gone there. No, anyways,
That's pretty nice. Keep going.
Don't stop.
We're with you. We're with
Yeah.
you.
I mean, if I'm surprised that you didn't get a whole bunch of inbox messages after you dressed up like a dog. That should have been immediately, really. But anyways, so one thing I will say is I just hope Whick has some self-love for himself, and really all of this incel rhetoric about like
Bedsu Neil says, I would end up verging on the edge of calling my potential girlfriend an R-slur and stupid for finding content like that. Sorry, I just lost my monitor. It's very dumb content. Like I'm not saying that the content itself isn't. I hope you guys can still hear me. I'm waiting for my monitor to come back up. The content itself is quite stupid. It's not very intelligent at all. However, I'm telling you, get wasted and watch reality TV. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And give me 1 second. Let me fuck with my monitors. Swear to God, guys, I don't do shit, and then I lose my monitors randomly. It must be like the HDMI cables must be old. But anyways, the point is that you guys are at least up over here. The point is that I think that if you get 2 or 3 beers deep and you start watching reality TV, you'll start to notice that the edits are cut from a female perspective. And what I mean by that is when I'm trying to look people in their faces, maybe I have autism, I don't know. But generally speaking, I would say up until the past 2 years, I really didn't look in people's faces that much. Like when I was talking to them, I would just say what I was going to say and they're going to say what they're going to say. I'll react to what they're going to say, but I'm not like trying to like constantly read their eye ticks or their mouth movements or their grimaces or their hair. And also maybe this is like a real, and that's going to piss you off or it's not going to piss you off. And then I expect you to tell the truth. And that's it. That's our entire relationship. And if you don't tell me the truth, eventually I'm going to stop associating with you. And so the whole point of that is that like verbal communication for me is almost more important than nonverbal communication. But I realize that human beings are actually supposedly with communication, like 90% is nonverbal. And so if you look at the reality TV shows, what they're really showing you when they edit, when they zoom in on somebody's face, when they zoom in on an eye roll or a cheek smirk or a sneer, what they're kind of showing you is the nonverbal language of people that should indicate some emotion. And I don't really have that many emotions anyways. I have 2 emotions. I have like anger and apathy. And sometimes I have love, mostly for my children and my wife. But I don't really like get like a lot of like chest flutters. That's just not something that I get a lot. Maybe maybe I'm emotionally dead. I don't know. But the truth is that like I don't think women experience the world that way at all. I think they have like tons of like random emotional impulses based off of like nonverbal body language, which is part, you know, I don't even know if you guys are there because I can't see the monitors, but that might genuinely be part of the reason why my wife loves me is because I'm such a simple creature. Like I'm going to tell you what I think and that's it. What I think is what I think and it is what it is. You either like it or you don't like it, but that simplicity also means a certain level of reliability. So my monitors are still out. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna fuck with my shit. I don't know what's going on, but I desperately need to use the restroom at the risk of losing some of you people while I'm still waiting for my monitors to come back up. What a wildly frustrating way to run a stream. Okay, well, I'm about to. Well, I'm gonna use restroom. I'll be right back. Hopefully the monitors are up by the time I'm back. My apologies. Play on your phones. Play some Candy Crush. I'll be right back. Not back. What the fuck? Well, that's annoying. Seriously, what the fuck? Guys, I'm sorry. I have to restart. So I'll be back in 5. My apologies. You guys still aren't up. Be right back. Okay. Hello? Am I back? Hello, hello, hello? Can you guys hear me? Are we back? Let me know when you can see this or hear this. On my side, it's saying that I'm back to... Okay, cool, 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 cool. Thank you to my 50 loyalists. You are the bee's knees. Let's go ahead and get back into it. My sincerest apologies. Effectively, what ended up happening was my cables, I guess they were just loose. And I couldn't figure out what cable was the problem. So I actually just unplugged and replugged all of my cables. So let's get back to talking about incels. I should probably actually let them talk a little bit, although I do feel like we were having a good conversation before I left. So I'm actually going to check in. Let me check in real quick and see what you guys were talking about in my absence. So it's going up. I'm a well-used lady. Your PC parts are worn out. Nothing bad but connections now. Yeah, I need to get some new HDMI cables. Beef Supreme says I've never gotten butterflies for a girl or a guy. Nice. Dice5 says reality TV teaching nonverbal social cues, the best types of entertainment teach you something. True. McDevin says just 2 or 3 beers. I need at least 5, realizing I might be an alcoholic. Well, hey, there you go. Fatsimo says the GPU might be loose in its slot as well. I think it actually is just the power cables for my monitor setup were kind of loose. And so I was pulling everything out and putting everything back in. But the main thing was some of the power cables were loose. So I got those going again. If you guys can't relate to 90 Day Fiance, Netflix made Love on the Spectrum for people like you. It's actually a very good show. I learned about a lot of autistic people by watching that with a wife. That's funny. That's funny. Does anyone have a good phone game recommendations? Yeah. Chairpoints. I wish you wouldn't say those kinds of things. My apologies. Wowman says going hard against the Asians this morning. Take it down there a notch, buddy. True, 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 true. So my apologies. Well, QC John says, I'm a little behind, but the internet allowed generational wisdom to be forgot. Like men are stupid and women are crazy. And the reason women are crazy is because men are stupid. True, unironically. Beef Supreme says, this damn chair is being too quiet. Have the courage to say something. True, chat. I think chair supports destiny unequivocally. I always have these caveats and I add this moral analysis. I think Chairpoints just full-throated support Steven. Benson Neal says Counterpoints. Turning to Hassan was not on my bingo card. True. I didn't expect to learn so much about Civil War toiletries via Chairpoints. True, 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 true. All right. I'll be back. The DGG Terracell in his city cut power. Yep. My apologies. Might have lost power. Big thunderstorms in Central Florida. Nope, not this time. It was just connections. Did you guys watch Golden Bachelor? That shit was depressing. Yeah, because like all the contestants, my wife watched that shit and she thought it was so wholesome. But for me, it was actually legitimately depressing seeing a bunch of 60-year-olds who had already lost their first husbands and wives being like, I love my old husband and I love my old wife and I don't really want to replace them. But realistically, I'm kind of bored and lonely. So I want to hang out with somebody new. And that was like, woof. Like, I understand that's true, but kind of brutal. Jedex said that would be more boring than the black screen. I'm comparing our carbon capture statutes to Texas's. Nice. Doobie says it's like 60 to 70-year-olds trying to compete for a 70-year-old dude who is still in love with his dead ex-wife. I know, right? I know. That's the vibe. That is the vibe. Peak Dating Show is the cougar one where they date each other's sons. Oh, my God. That is horrific. The 50-year-old who stayed at the Adeptus Custodes among the grill hottest. Thank you. Yes, you are the Custodes. Reality show drama is so much better than streamer drama. True, because lower stakes, I guess. MILF Island. That's crazy. All right. Let's bring our contestants back onto the screen. All right, go. Doobie highly recommends MILF Island for content. There we go.
Across the board, it applies to women too. You know, women, if you're an average looking woman, you're not going to probably get approached as much as a good looking woman. And also men.
Charlie, is that true?
Charlie.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Hold on. We're talking about.
Okay, hold on. Actually, let me actually speak on this.
That
let
was
me
pretty
speak on this.
incelish, sir.
Let me, because Soy Pill and I have actually talked about this. If you guys don't know this about me, I am detransitioned, which means for about 10 years of my life, to the average straight man, I looked like a chubby butch lesbian, sort of this amorphous androgynous creature thing. Very rarely got spoken to by straight men. Gay men would talk to me, and then I'd open my mouth and it'd be like, oh, you know, like, what
That's
is that?
exactly my point, right? Men don't even
right.
treat you like you're a human being
No.
worthy of being.
They
talked
would literally, yeah, they wouldn't speak. They either would ignore me, or they'd treat me like a bro, which rocked, or they would want to punch me in the face. So while it maybe wasn't like,
Especially
yeah,
men can get away. Like, if we're gonna be real here, like, this whole incel rhetoric is completely flipped upside down. Okay, men can get away with looking average. Women cannot as often get away with looking average. If you are average or below average as a woman, you do not get treated as a human being worthy of anybody's time by the male sex.
I don't think this is true at all. I think plenty of women can get plenty of attention, even if they're wildly unattractive. Maybe, I don't know, maybe this was true in the thousands. I understand that a lot of, not attractive women probably get ignored and treated poorly, but I'm pretty sure if they go to a social space, like let's say that they go to a house party and everybody's getting drunk and hanging out and all that kind of stuff, pretty sure women can get physical attraction from men or physical attention from men, even if they're homely. Now you might say like, well, that's fucked up too, because yeah, exactly. Doobie says those are practice girls. He's joking, he swears. But yeah, but unironically, you might get, dated and ditched. You might not be treated respectfully, like all that kind of stuff, but you can still get male attention in a third space. Yeah. Dylan Thomas says Charlie was trans. I had no idea. Did she say she desisted? Yeah. Yeah. Or detransitioned, actually, which is more hardcore.
That's my point. And also let's be real. Men, average and below average men, can also compensate by education and attaining wealth and attaining education and building a life for themselves, whereas below average women cannot compensate for that because most men don't really value that. They value youth and they value good looking women.
I just want to point out that this panel was supposed to be about Whick and his rhetoric and the problems with men, but women, as often they do,
women make it about themselves. Absolutely.
have made it about women.
I told you ahead of time what I was gonna do when I came in here. Okay, I told you ahead of time. You knew. You didn't want me here. You didn't have to.
We love you. We love you, Stardust. We like you here. We want you here. But I do
Whick,
think
to be clear, what I wanted to do was kind of what Stardust was getting into, which is bring up some topics like this and see what your position is on them. And I want you to answer these honestly, like from the bottom of your heart, not like in mind thinking, if I say it wrong, I'll become an incel, or I don't want to align with the incel. Like, just
I'm not worried about being canceled for my honest answers. Give me what.
All right. So just as a point, and I'm happy for if Gen X or West Coast Girl or anybody's in chat, I'm just going to point out that there's an episode. These are not the people that I was looking for, but there was someone in here, my 600-pound life or whatever. Yeah, do y'all remember I think I might be pregnant. I crave water. I'm pretty sure that this woman, I think this woman is this woman's daughter. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to be too rude or too mean, but I'm just saying, like, there's a dude out for you. Oh, they're sisters, I guess. But the mere fact that I'm presuming that her mother looked similar to her. Oh, and not just that, she said I might be pregnant, which means that she had physical relations with a man at some point in the past, like, few months. Come on, bro. What
you got?
Sure. So, like, for example, who do you think has it worse in society, men or women?
In what way? In what?
Women have it worse in general, but men have it worse in specific circumstances.
Just in general, like if you
venue.
were to ask, like, do women have it on easy mode, as some people say?
On average. So again, I think that if you're like in the top 10 or 20% of men, it's probably better than being a woman. But I do think being the bottom 10% of men is worse than being the bottom 10% of women. 100%.
In many ways, yes, and not always though. And this is why it's hard to answer this question like with a yes or a no or with a simple answer, is because there are absolutely places in life where women have it much easier than men, but there are also places in life where men don't have to work as hard. Like I didn't have to like put on my makeup or do anything, right, to get on stream and to be taken seriously.
Yeah,
But
meanwhile, I'm putting my makeup on.
I
Yeah.
know.
Okay.
But at the same time, a woman who is even slightly attractive, even 5 or above, will get a lot more attention and a lot
True.
more. They have a higher floor for streaming and a higher floor for people attention. If I, as
True.
as I am, put out that I'm having a bad day and I need help, I'm going to get mocked in a way that women are not.
True.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah,
I
I
think
don't.
I'll say about
But also Jesus hates a wussy, right?
I will say about
As a social media content creator, like at least for me, when I put out, if I'm having a bad day, I think I get a lot of people ridiculing me. Like a
Yeah.
I think it's
lot.
racism for you though, Stardust.
It might be
specifically.
racist, I don't know.
All right. So
I will
Wick-
say that for like female streamers, I will say that on Twitch specifically, a woman who's decent looking can absolutely get to partner easier, but there is also a reason that the vast, the like top 100 streamers, 99 of them are male. And that's because while it's easier to get that little kick at the beginning, it's very, very hard to go anywhere beyond that.
The ceiling is lower for
Yes.
the
Yeah.
floor may be higher for women, but the ceiling is significantly lower.
yeah, the
Yes, it's
attention they're
very hard
getting
to
is
grow.
not particularly positive or valuing of who they are. It's just, oh, they're attractive and I'm
But-
going to watch them.
hold
And it
on.
kind of stops there for a lot
What
of
do you
people.
Right,
think
it
the
would feel like the
intention that I
attention-
get? Do you think it's mostly positive or valuable?
I mean, it's much more to do with the things you say than how you look. No offense, but I guarantee
Hold
you,
on,
I
do
would
you not
guess
think I
less
get
than
pe-
one?
Oh,
I guess less than 1% of your audience is watching because they want to fuck you. I would guess that versus any of
fair
these female
enough.
streamers you're talking about.
But if you
I
think
mean,
I don't get
also
comments
just
on my
something-
looks, you would just be.
I didn't say
Sure,
that.
but okay,
People
of
pay him
course,
to take
as
his shirt
someone
off.
who's been on Twitch for a while, or I used to be on Twitch for a very long time. When I first was on Twitch, I didn't even get the positive, attractive attention. I just had people coming into my chat saying, "Wow, your nose is really big," or like, or say, like early days of Twitch, like, not early days, but like this was several years ago, and the environment was a little bit different. But I just had people saying my nose is really big. I had one guy saying that my nose is so big he wants to sit on it. He wants to like slide down on my nose, like how big it is. It was to the point where like I started thinking like, do I have a big nose? Because I don't think I have a big nose. I never thought about that before. I've had like every horrible comment about my appearance said about me. Like I'm horribly fat, a horrible, like disgusting, disgusting bitch. I am just horribly unattractive. All like everything, right? And so like as a woman online, I think you just it is the default to get commented on your looks. It is the
I think it's a default to get commented on your looks, but I also think that there's a dynamic within Twitch and YouTube politics and Twitch in general and YouTube in general, where women are very often judged on their looks, but also like really rude, shitty, antisocial men enjoy putting down unattractive women. And I'm not even saying Stardust is unattractive. Stardust streamer, but she's obviously I think she's of Indian descent, right? I think there's plenty of dudes who would be into Stardust's aesthetic. And so as a result, like that, there's going to be plenty of simps and there's going to be plenty of haters. But I think because Stardust isn't like, a e-thought where sexuality is like a broad, is like a huge part of her content, then I think that a lot of people are going to treat her like shit because they're going to try to pick on her insecurities because it makes them feel better. I don't think that's the same thing. And by the way, Stardust isn't even an incel. Stardust could get laid if she wants to. As a matter of fact, I think she was dating Beckett of Crabs for a long time. So I don't even know why I thought the whole point of the conversation was, what is Whick incel adjacent? Does he make misogynist arguments? And what should we do about like the incel community that's brewing online? I don't know how this became like women get treated poorly too, therefore we shouldn't care if Whick and or incel men get treated poorly. I don't know why this argument shifted so drastically.
Default.
Yes,
You know?
but Wick does too. Like men do too. Men get comments on their
not even
looks all
close
the
to the
time.
You're
same
just
degree.
called
These
an
are like
Ewok in the
disproportionate,
last
like
video.
to
It's like,
an
it's not even-
unfathomable way.
Not even the positive attention is good. I have a man, there's a man that self-publishes Amazon fan fiction about raping and murdering me and a bunch of my female streamer friends. Multiple of my streamer female friends have stalkers, like people that have been trying to
What's this girl's name? They said Charlie, but I'm unfamiliar with what her streaming persona is.
like track them down, followed them across the country. There was a dude who would come into my stream every day for a year, and I'd block him every time. And he would say, this is not me saying it, pulling out, it's reverse racism card, but he would be, I'm an Indian man, all white women are whores, that's what we think of you. I want to see you get destroyed by BBCs. Like, even if it's positive, it's people
Yeah.
being attracted to me or whatever,
Pretty
it's not fun. I don't like
the,
it.
the spectrum is wider in terms of you will get much more lauded because of the higher threshold of attractiveness, but you also get stalkers and death threats because of the attraction. And I don't think men experience this even close to the same degree.
I really don't. I haven't had any stalkers yet. No sex stalkers.
But
also
I'm not
think-
saying
I
there's not
agree with that,
no
yeah.
floor. Like,
No.
like there are parts of pretty privilege that are absolutely true. I've had girlfriends that just get free shit all the time and discounts. Like, this happens for sure. The point is, when I ask you who has it easier, the incel rhetoric is women live life on easy mode because all they have to do is make themselves attractive and life will be given to them.
But that's
Meanwhile,
not what I
men have it
said.
harder. I know. I'm not saying you saying this. This is why I asked your opinion on it. And
Okay.
I don't think you're an incel. Obviously, I would never think that your opinion's going to overlap one-to-one on this. But when you talk about the problems that men have, it seems to be in a way that
Rob says, what's the opposite of celibate? Maybe promiscuous. You have incel and volcel. Now we have inprom and volprom. So you're involuntarily promiscuous or voluntarily promiscuous. Dude, what if in 2022 Steven was like, listen guys, it's not my fault, I'm neurodivergent, I'm in prom. Yeah let's see if that excuse flies.
it's framed that women are causing them, or that women are ignoring them, or that like somehow this is a bitterness and a battle of the sexes and not a societal problem that's just affecting men poorly that we need to alleviate, and that that women also have these similar problems.
Do you not? Well, first of all, do you not think that women are responsible for some of the problems in society, though?
Charlie is named Enemy Charlie, and she's normally a booby streamer, but she's detransitioned and she had the decency to cover up for the incel panel.
Women do nothing wrong ever.
Or at least
No, of
complicit
course,
in
of
them.
course.
Or at least-
Yeah, no, of course. Like in the same way Charlie
so
said, look,
this is
if
a-
a woman ignores a man's problems or demeans them for crying or showing their feelings, even though I think that is part of violating a patriarchal structure of, hey, men have to be this, and if you deviate from this by crying, you're not a man. That doesn't matter. The woman is perpetuating that by saying, oh, fuck you, I'm not attracted to you anymore.
But
That's
this is-
still her fault.
This is
right?
my
So-
problem with
Nice.
kind of like the criticisms that you're levying here, is that I do bring up issues that
McDevin, I disavow. Very funny, but I disavow.
I see that I think women perpetuate. I also bring up issues that I see that I think men perpetuate. But when I bring up women and I say, hey, women are causing problems.
Randy says, what's the word for folks who are trying to have casual relationships, but they keep getting dragged into 2 to 3 year long stints? I think that's like involuntary monogamous. Like in monog. You're in monog. Oh, that's awesome.
For X, Y, or Z reason in this, and they're not
Sure.
acting correct, then people say, well, you shouldn't say that. That's incel adjacent. You shouldn't
Right. So, like,
just this.
could you give an
But
example of
I
that?
also
What
promise you-
problems do women cause?
Well, I do think that women don't take men's problems as seriously as they should.
But women
could you-
aren't
in mongs for short. True.
causing those issues.
Okay,
Well,
well,
what problems in
here's one.
particular?
Pick up
So
Rabbit, go ahead.
we have demanded that women be given access to the workplace, that equity initiatives place them in positions of power, and that they earn a lot more. But we haven't resolved the issue that women don't really like to date down. And
True. Get him with the incel rhetoric. Let's go.
there's two sides. There's two sides to that. Men have been taught to be self-conscious about their partner making less than or making more than them, but women very frequently say that they will not date anyone shorter than them. And then the other one is that they will not date anyone that doesn't make as much money as them. And that if we are going to fix for women that they are going to be
Get 'em.
compensated equitably.
Grassroots Hegemon says, hello, I am both late and gay. Well, congratulations. We actually have a whole VOD that you can enjoy with very minimal Destiny discourse, I must say. We did a good job today. Now, that being said, we did have a correlated, I would say, less viewership because we weren't watching Destiny's dick helicopter traffic camera. But we did talk about earlier, we watched Alex O'Connor on the Andrew Schultz comedy podcast. It was good. It's a little dry. I think Alex O'Connor's a little dry, but that's okay. I still had a good time and we had a good time in chat. And then now we're watching the incel debate panel from last week on Whick TV. And I think we're just chilling. Having a chill stream today, which is fine. I think we need a little bit of a change of pace compared to all the drama that we've been in recently.
Equitably to men, we have to change that social stigma, tongue twister, that women should be dating up instead of down. There are far more wealthy men, C-suite men that have waitresses that become their spouses than there are C-suite women having waiters become their
Right.
spouses.
Well,
So I want to be very careful here.
Well,
So
I do want
what you've
Mooncake
just
to get a
described.
chance, right?
Well, okay, go ahead.
No, it's okay. No, I was gonna say, sir, I hate that dating down thing. I don't think women have a problem with quote unquote dating down if you're like
Then why do they never do it?
talking. I think there's an expectation to say, but I
Are
think
you
there's still an
dismissing that
expectation.
concern?
No, it's money. But I think there's
All
an
right, I keep
expectation
clicking the button, but
on
I'm
men
trying to
where it's
move
like,
over
okay,
here.
even if they are bringing in like a lot less money, they're not helping with like the housework or chores. They're expecting women to work, to do the housework, to take care of the kids and do all these things on top of not really being a provider. And I think now a lot of men talk about wanting to be providers, but they can't actually do it. So it really is at the end of the day the fault of men, and then they're just kind of pushing that blame onto women.
You guys should
I'm not gonna lie, guys. This is huge. So if you're in the let's say that you're just not making that much money. You're one of the working class Joes, and you actually do find a chick who's willing to not only date you but marry and have kids with you while she is the breadwinner. Okay, I think you need to understand that domestic responsibilities are effectively a full-time job. Okay, I would live in this house. Okay, what is it? It takes so little to make a man happy. I would live in this house. I would live in a lawn chair with a television, with a mattress and a box spring in the corner. I would do laundry as needed, and I would clean the house once every 6 months. I swear to God, like lawn chair, television, mattress. That's how I would live. Okay. Now, when you live with a woman, they want their house to be an extension of their personality, right? And so they have the perfect table with the perfect chairs, with the perfect living room furniture, with the perfect lighting, with the perfect house accessories that describe who they are as a person, with the actual living, breathing plants that you have to water and you have to do all this crazy bullshit. Women want all this bullshit, right? And so as a result, if you're going to be the house husband, you're going to have to think like a woman And you're just going to have to realize that maintaining this level of organization and cleanliness is going to be your job, which is going to be like daily or weekly vacuuming, weekly mopping, organizing the throw pillows every time they get disorganized, weekly dusting and organizing to make sure all the stuff does that. You know, making sure that the toys, like my wife has a little bit of OCD, so like certain toys go into like certain, you know, toy boxes and toy baskets. And so the mentality that you would have of lawn chair, TV, mattress living, it just doesn't apply to this. So you can't bring that level of domestic responsibility attention to a domestic partnership if you are the house husband. So you're going to have to be have to be house husband made bitch, which is fine if you're into it. If you're into it, then yeah. So Patty says, as long as I get to keep the dog food, I'm happy. True. Some women will date lesser men, but it's not the norm. Yeah. Beef Supreme says, my wife dated down. She comes from good money. Hell, I only work to keep myself busy and not a loser. Well, dang, good for you, bro. Good for you, Beef. Where would your Warhammer go? Warhammer, weirdly enough, I actually would buy like a protective case for that because I would actually like value the Warhammer. Beef Supreme says, my wife pays for everything, lol, her choice too. Told me I didn't have to work. Look, I'm not built to be a house bitch, so I kept working. It funds my boat. Well, Beef Supreme, I would say that what you should be doing with your house, since you're working instead of being a house husband, you should be paying for a cleaning lady. AK Batasui says, I lived in a bedroom with a roommate for 2 years and never ever used the stove or the kitchen table, right? I hate the plant so fucking much, right? Right. Grassroots 10 says, true, cleaning is a feminine trait. Burn your shit down every 6 weeks and commit insurance fraud. I would if I could. I would if I could. Oh, yeah, and the throw pillows have to be organized very specifically. Doobie says, I've managed to scrounge out 3 dark minimalist dungeons in the house for myself, but I feel like my wife won't be happy until there are 50 random accessories in every room. Yeah, dude. Yeah, so all I'm really saying is like, it's not enough to take on the domestic responsibilities that you would take on if you live by yourself. If you would buy paper plates and just throw them in the trash, if you would go from your lawn chair to your mattress to your job, back to your lawn chair, back to your mattress, back to your, whatever. That's not enough for a woman. I'm just being real. Just being real. McDevin says, wait, Connor, you don't do the egg carton thing for Warhammer minis? No, I don't. Yep. Anyways, back to it.
You guys should go to TwitchCon. You're gonna see beautiful rich women with ugly boyfriends who do nothing and make no money. It's like,
but those are the exception, not the rule. Even being a successful streamer is the exception, not the rule. Charlie should know this.
like every hot e-girl you can think of has a worthless boyfriend who is ugly and mean and does nothing with their life and does
because they know that he's a safe bet. Like look at this guy. Sniper Wolf's ex-boyfriend, right? Sniper Wolf ex-boyfriend. This dude allegedly cheated on Sniper Wolf. Like, look. Sniper Wolf's allegedly a crazy person, okay? But let's face it, she is a conventionally attractive woman, and she found, I guess, this new guy who has muscles. Good for her. But she was dating this dude for a long time, like a mildly heavyset guy with long hair. And I'm not saying he's ugly. Like if that's how he started, then yeah, he was actually probably a pretty good looking guy. But she put up with him being, overweight, not conventionally attractive for years. And she put up with that shit. You know why? Because they made stupid money together. And then not just that, but she thought that she was safe. So, bruh. Yeah, like streamers having useless boyfriends is not Amaranth husband. This guy, if I saw this guy at a house party, I would not expect him to be pulling chicks. Now, it's not that he's not ugly. He's not an ugly guy. but I just wouldn't expect him to be slamming, right? So if he's like useless and using Amaranth for cash, she probably only stays with him because she thinks that he's such a big piece of shit that they can stay together and it's not a big deal. And he's not going anywhere because she makes too much money. In my opinion. Jonah Zilla says, I got to go to TwitchCon then. I know. I keep telling my wife, next time she marries, she needs to marry for money. Doobie says, those are the women who got beaten around by assholes and now have enough money to have the safe guy. I mean, it's a stereotype, but it's a stereotype for a reason. He's not going to cheat on me. Other women wouldn't go near his crusty thing anyways. Yeah. Yep. Xena says, Sniper Wolf was also a little crazy. She was emotionally attached. I'm not surprised. You just don't like Asians because it gives you war flashbacks. True. Right. Anyways, back to it.
Nothing
I have a
Jenny.
different counter to this real quick, Charlie.
I'm not kidding.
Hold on,
but
whose
I
fault
would
is
never
that?
in
I would never hold up
but it-
streamers as being typical
Yeah, and
representatives.
also-
No, they're not. But I'm just
general,
saying, it's a
it's not just
really
a streamer
weird
thing, though.
phenomenon. It's a really weird phenomenon to see it.
It's not weird at all. They want a secure boyfriend who isn't going anywhere, even if he's ugly and useless.
Streamers
It's
very
not
important.
necessarily a weird
Let me
phenomenon,
get a
though.
word
It's-
in. Let me get a word in. Because in general, I think you're right, Rabbit Wombat, and that's why I want to be careful. Because the idea that women in general are always looking for that security and dating up, because since 1980s they couldn't hold a bank account or a credit card or whatever, or before that, that makes sense. That is something that I want to reverse. The incel adjacent rhetoric doesn't start there. It starts when you complain about that and say, I don't like that women won't settle for less. And then that kind of ends there. And you can talk about how that needs to change. But the problem is when you face those issues in real life, this is where it should start and end as a complaint. Like, oh, I've just found a woman who has unrealistic standards, whatever, gone. And that could be something you complain about. The inceldom comes when it's this repetitive rhetoric that comes up very frequently. And this is the problem, this is the problem, this is the problem. And you're not really concerned with the fact that on an individual basis, you can find plenty of women who don't do this. You will not have a problem finding them if you put work into yourself and just go out and meet people. Like there's a
See, I don't trust Soy Pill, bro. I need some ugly Soy Pill pictures from teenage years. Ugly duckling syndrome. Because this is his motif. Is that's him. The Soy Pill streamer, but he's actually like a fairly, I guess there's not a lot of pictures of him because he's kind of like up and coming or whatever, but he's not like a terribly ugly guy, right? He's actually fairly normal looking. Now, I think I hate his hat. I really do. I know he wears it as like a part of his aesthetic or whatever. I genuinely hate this dude's hat, but he's not an ugly guy. Whereas I could show you some like fugly pictures from me when I was in middle school and high school. And then also I just love Warhammer, right? So that automatically gives me like a -2 or 3. So G-Free says Soy Pill said he was fat as a teenager. Right. But is he like fat? Like he was morbidly obese fat? Or was he like a little overweight fat? Because those are different things. Like having an extra 10 or 20 pounds is different than being like obese. You know what I'm saying? So let's see the ugliest guy these women have dated for sure. Fatsimo, that would be a fun metric to see for female streamers. Absolutely. I would doubt he was fat as a teen. Well, I would want to see it. Show me. Show me your fugly middle school and high school pictures. Because I do have ugly duckling syndrome. I want to make sure that he's not a stolen valor, ugly duckling syndrome guy.
Smaller subset, because in general, like you said, women do this, but talking about it like this societal issue that's women's fault and not, hey, I'm going to be the change I want to see. I'm going to go out and meet people who don't have these standards.
It can be women's fault, and you can face it on an individual basis. Like, and by the way, like I'm not blaming women. We've had the most extreme social upheaval imaginable with the sexual revolution since the 1960s. I don't even think women knew what they really wanted during the sexual revolution because they didn't even think that they could get it. Like you have to understand, like up until the 1950s, 1960s or whatever, women just kind of rolled with the punches, right? Sometimes literally, where they just did what men forced them to do because if they didn't do it, they got the shit kicked out of them or they got ostracized by society. So in the 1960s, when women were like, no, actually, we are human beings and we want equal rights under the law and we want to pursue our ambitions as we best see fit. And we want to be able to control our own finances and we want to stop getting the shit kicked out of us whenever our boyfriend or husband is upset that their favorite soccer team or football team lost the game. You know, that was necessary, right? Like it was necessary for the emancipation of women. But now that we're emancipated, there's all these problems because freedom is terrifying, right? So, you know, you got people putting their boobs on the internet. You got people becoming sex workers at 17 years old in 4 months, although they should be becoming sex workers at 18 years in 1 second if we're going to be legal about it. We got people thinking that sex work is emancipatory. We got people encouraging that line of thinking. We have drugs, alcohol, ambition, all the bullshit that came with like stereotypically masculine adventure. Women are experiencing it and they're deciding whether or not they even like it. It's football, not soccer. Well, I live in America, so no. All right, checking in with chat before we move back into it. I just want to say, I parasocially love you guys for being here. We got 110 people cross-platform. Like the stream, share it with your friends, participate in chat. There's lots of funny, smart, interesting people in there. Comment for the comment gods, watch the VODs, love the VODs, enjoy the VODs. Super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. Thank you kindly for hanging out. G-Free says, the way he described it, he was majorly insecure about being fat. But yeah, but being insecure about something that you're uncomfortable with, I was insecure about my acne. But my acne compared to other people was almost nothing. I would get like a red bump in my chin or sometimes like near my lip or under my nose or on my nose or something like that. And sometimes I would have like 2 or 3 of them and I would have to like pop them and cover them in makeup and all that kind of bullshit and then like wait until they went away. And then sometimes I would pick at them so hard that I would just have like a hole in my face because I was so sensitive about my pimples. I wanted to pop them immediately, but sometimes they weren't ready to pop. And so I would make something that was actually really small turn into something really big. But that doesn't mean that I had bad acne just because I was insecure about my acne. Doobie says, I weighed 400 pounds at the end of high school and didn't get down to 220, 230 until I was like 24, but I was able to be very active with women who were thin and attractive that whole period. I'm 6'4", but I don't think that totally offsets being literally 400 pounds. So I think it was a lot of confidence and charisma. Well, Doobie, if you're serious, yeah, like being funny and being smart and being quick-witted and sharp makes up a lot for aesthetic issues. It's football, not soccer. Well, I'm American, not European. Doobie says, I wasn't insecure about being fat until I graduated high school and tried to get on a roller coaster at Six Flags. Literally the most awkward experience of my life. It still haunts me. Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
I don't give a fuck if you're, 5'10" and I'm 5'7", I will still date you. This happens all the time. And by making it this problem that's like, hey, the conversation kind of stops and ends here. And this is the society's problem. And society is the reason why I can't find a girlfriend, or all these women have too high expectations.
True. G-Free says, you can find women with fat dudes, poor dudes, ugly dudes, but never totally insecure dudes. I agree. I agree that so insecure dudes can totally land women. They can't keep women because that insecurity drives women insane.
Expectations.
Like you have to have a confident sense. This is actually, in my genuine opinion, you have to have a confident sense of self. Okay, like regardless of whether or not you get laid, regardless of whether or not you're ugly, regardless of whether or not you have money, regardless of whether or not you're charismatic, regardless of whether or not you have a good personality, you have to know who you are. And that's one of the things that's actually, I think, really scary to people, by the way, is Jordan Peterson points this out. Where do I have a recent one? Pictures. I was working on that incel spreadsheet, and I don't know if I saved it. Oh, damn, I didn't save it. I'm going to have to draw it again. But anyways, the whole point is that, Jordan Peterson says telling a 16-year-old boy to be yourself doesn't mean anything because they have no idea who they are. And I agree with that, hardcore. It's super hard to know who you are when you're a 16-year-old boy because you haven't been challenged by the world yet. You haven't done anything yet. And so your sense of definition is very fluid. But the advice that he gives for that, which I think is just accurate, is become yourself. Okay. And so what I mean by that is becoming yourself means challenging yourself and figuring out who you are. And so know who you are on a physical attractiveness level, right? Physical attractiveness. And by the way, here's a nuance of physical attractiveness you might have not even thought about before. There are people who are physically attractive who are incompatible. Okay. And what I mean by that is that I have met people who were physically attractive and they just weren't for me. Right? They were just they smelled a little weird, or their breath smelled a little weird, or that their like skin was like oily in a weird way, and there was just something that was like vaguely off-putting about them, even though they were undeniably physically attractive. And so I think that's like a nuance of it, where if you've never dated like a super attractive person, you might not realize that even amongst attractive people, there can be people who are not attracted to each other, likely on some kind of like subconscious genetic level, right? So your personality, finances. I know that one of them was like life goals. I forget what life goals. Physical attractiveness, personality, emotional intelligence. That's what it was. Emotional intelligence. Yeah, and so the whole point is here, it's like it's never over, bro. It's never over. You can figure out how to become better in all of these stages.
That's the insultum rhetoric, where it's like, oh,
But I don't give
lament
that
and doom
rhetoric.
pill and black pill.
I don't give that rhetoric. I don't say that you have no hope, ladies and gentlemen who is watching me, who acknowledge the problems that I see, not just in the dating market, but with women in general and with men themselves. My message to them has never been give up, you're not going to make it.
No. If it was, you would be an incel, to
I
be
have
clear.
said over and over again, there are ways, even if you don't look as good as others, that you can make yourself more attractive to the opposite sex, that you can pull, right? That you can pull a woman who's beautiful, who you will love and who will love you. But we have to acknowledge that there are issues and problems that are unique to men that,
True.
yes, women not only perpetuate, but in many cases cause. And I think that
Okay,
True.
what is a unique problem to men that women cause?
I think that one of the unique problems that men have in modern dating is on dating apps, right? I think that women, it might not be their fault.
Grassroots says, I've earned the right to be ugly. All right. Listen, dude, if you're raking in cash, you can be as ugly as you want, man. Well, like seriously, if you go to work and you're making 50 to $100 an hour, I think you can look like a donkey's ass and you will still pull. Beef Supreme says it's incredibly difficult to have a relationship with someone who is insecure, mostly speaking. True. Evan says my girl smells good all the time and fits into my arms. That isn't replaceable. Well, and weirdly enough, guys, like I've had people say, because sometimes I'll work outside, I'll get sweaty, whatever. I don't always, have time to shower. And I've had family members who were like, "Oh, Connor, you stink. You smell like BO." And then my wife, because she'll be there because we're traveling as a family, and she'll be like, "Hey, do I stink right now?" And what's funny is she'll be like, "No, you smell good." And I swear to God, there's like a genetic compatibility to smell that might be subconscious, where effectively, like, if you're around somebody and they smell a little bit off to you, even if they're physically attractive, it might be some kind of like instinctive genetic compatibility. I swear to God. And the reason why I say that is because my wife and I were able to have like two perfect, beautiful boys. And I wonder if on some level there was like a subconscious reading that we were just like, not only like mentally compatible, spiritually compatible, long-term compatible, attracted to each other, etc. But I wonder if there's like a subconscious like smell thing, like somebody saying pheromones. I wonder if that's part of it. Grassroots says, "Will say, all my ex is super cute. Wick is right. You got to run with what you brung." Yeah, work with what you got. Hold what you got. Beef Supreme says, so true. Having a relationship goes deeper than looks. Absolutely. Gen X says, bro, I don't want to get the topic back on the earlier stuff, but did anyone see Mr. Girl post, I can let him take my pedo crown. It's all I have. Wow. That does sound like something that Max Carson would say. Bud123 says, is the right way to go about getting a girlfriend is to ask out enough women to get dates when you're starting out? No. Well, Gen X is saying, yes, play the odds, but I don't think so. Okay. What I would do if I was to time travel, which I wouldn't do because I love my wife, I love my kids, I love my life. And so I really wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't want to butterfly effect myself out of my current existence. But what I would say is get into third spaces and just be as aggressively normal as possible. And what I mean by that is I think I would have had more dating success if I had just like gone to the bar, hung out with friends, et cetera, et cetera. And I think there was always this like constant desperation to try to get the physical attention of women, which did work out. But I still think that like a lot of women can smell that desperation. They can smell that like fear and anxiety. And so as a result, that can be quite off-putting. And I think you have more opportunities when you chill and like get to know people, get to know their hobbies, get to know what their friends are, what they care about, all that kind of stuff. Generally, just trying to be like a normal friend to a woman, you'll actually pretty quickly figure out like who's worth dating and who's not. Just as an example, before I met my wife, there was this girl who I met who was super cute, like undeniably cute. And I actually thought that we had a lot in common because we had really good conversations whenever we talked. But then we went on like a lunch date just because somebody was like, hey, you guys should date. But the vibes were like a little bit off. So we wanted to get to know each other. We went on a lunch date and we are just not compatible at all. We didn't see the world the same way. We didn't have the same morals. We didn't have the same objectives in life. And so while there was still like a physical component that could have worked, everything else was off. And so I feel like being open to that kind of like chill friendship, third space conversation allows you to filter out who's worth dating and who's not. Beef Supreme says, okay, it's that time of day. What is for lunch, Chipotle or sub sandwich? Sub sandwich if it's cheaper and you're trying to save money. Chipotle if you lifted weights in the past week and you need some protein. Sacred Snow says, you heard it here, man. Don't shower. Your true love will be attracted to you even though you stink. True. Bud123 says, no, your wife just does not want to hurt your feelings that you stink. I don't think so. I don't think so. Evan says, that's my exact situation, Connor. She feels the same way where I know I smell and she's like, nah, you smell better than usual. You guys probably have like a some level of like genetic compatibility. Well, QC John says, that's why you can't have a relationship based solely on physical attraction. My wife can go out into the world looking like a 10, but we wake up in the morning, she can look like a bridge troll. That's awesome. Paul said, Desi took everything from Mr. Girl. He can't let him take the pedo crown. Oh, Eben says 100% women can smell desperation and insecurity. Yeah, and I think that like while that drive to try to find your partner will lead you to more social experiences, I think that more women will reject you if they just know that you're like, you know, how do I sleep with this woman? 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 Like if that's like your constant train of thought running in the back of your head, I think women can like psychically pick up on that. Beef Supreme says, I love being a short guy and having a taller woman on my arm makes people want to ask questions. I love it. That is based. Bud123 says, aggressively normal like SpongeBob's hello, my name is normal sticker. Yes. Yes. Yep. Yep. Could pass for an Amazonian lady if she dresses up like a native. Lol. Oh, you guys are brutal. Gen X says, yeah, but Connor, we're old and used to physically hanging out with the opposite sex in social settings. Lol. Now they do everything online. I know. That's actually the tough thing. I do feel bad for the younger generation since everything is online. I think you're just going to have to do like chill dates. I think you're just going to have to, instead of shooting straight to romance, right? Romance, in my opinion, a nighttime date is more romantic than a lunchtime date. alcohol is going to have more of a sexual implication than no alcohol. And also, you shouldn't be willing to jump straight to that with nobody, like with like anybody, right? Unless they're like smoking hot and they're into you, then you should be like, okay, let's go get dinner and some drinks, right? However, I think if you're just trying to get to know somebody and you're trying to find your wife, instead of just somebody to hook up with, if you're actually looking for your wife, I don't think there's any problem going for like a lunch date first, being like, hey, I think you're super cool. I think you're really pretty. I want to hang out with you. I want to get to know you, et cetera, et cetera. Can we do something chill? Like, can we go out for coffee and go for a walk, go for a walk around a park or something like that? Now, and that's a funny thing too. I've heard that date idea be shit on by women who want you to spend a small fortune on them. But truth be told, that's a filter that you want to filter out anyways. If you have a woman who wants you to spend $400 on the first date, that's not somebody you want to date long-term anyways, unless you're like rich and you're looking for a trophy wife. Anyways, if I keep talking to chat, I'm not going to watch any of the content. So let's keep watching some content.
Right? But they are absolutely contributing to a problem where they are selecting for certain features that men just can't compete on, right? Like men do terribly at dating apps for the most
Okay,
part.
but
like,
would you say
But
that
it's an
women...
option.
Hold on, this is another one of my questions then. Do you think women in society need to be more charitable to men that they're dating? Like they should lower their standards?
Well, those are two different questions. Yes, I think they should be more charitable to men they're dating, but no, they shouldn't lower their standards.
I think women should hella lower their standards.
So charitable
okay, well,
to,
the charitable...
so for example, what I mean by charitable to men is like, if you're with a guy and you like the guy and maybe he messes up sometimes, you should have some charity for him. Maybe he does something you don't like and you got to forgive him sometimes. But I think that for men.
Yeah, women are way too fast to get the ick, bro, especially nowadays. They've come up with like a laundry list of things that are like turnoffs. And if you do one turnoff, they're like, yep, that's it, we're done. Whereas that's not how relationships work. Relationships are give and take. They are good days and bad days. So yeah, women need to reduce their standards and not be so fucking judgmental.
Okay, but this is agendered advice. But when I say should women be lowering their standards, not like should they care about whether or not you're taller than them or whether or not you...
Nice. DD22E says, also somehow I lucked out despite being a short dude. My girlfriend's 4'10". Base, bro. Base for you for finding a short queen. Although I do like somebody else is carrying the I'm dating a tall queen energy and they love it, so that's good.
You make more money, or whether or not you look good enough, in the way that on these dating apps they do select for the highest.
I think that
Ved Sunil says, my first date insisted on splitting the check. That was fucked and never went anywhere. Well, Ved Sunil, and I would say that's where, like, if you go on a dinner date, that is too much pressure, right? So let's say that you go on a dinner date that involves alcohol, and then she's not vibing with you or you not vibing with her. Then if you pick up the tab, effectively what you're saying is, I'm interested and I want to do this again. And if she's picking up her half, one of two things is happening. Either she's saying like, I'm not interested in continuing this further, so I'm going to split the bill because that's the responsible thing. I don't want you to feel like you wasted your time or your money on me, which can be viewed as polite. But it also can be viewed as incredibly rude because you're effectively like rejecting the other person. Another option is that they're just like straight egalitarian and they do want to go on another date, but they actually believe in some level of like equality, I guess, or whatever. So you kind of got to ask them and say like, hey, like you're picking up the bill. Are we, did you have fun? Do you want to do this again? Or is this kind of like our last time hanging out? And you can't really say it with like the pressure, like you're like disappointed or angry or sad. Because if you're disappointed or angry or sad, then they might feel defensive. I think you kind of have to ask it in like a super neutral way. Just be like, hey, listen, I had a good time. I'd be interested in hanging out again. If you don't want to, that's totally fine. Like you really have to take the pressure off in these kinds of situations. And I think that's where like lunch dates too. With a lunch date, if she's like, oh yeah, I'm going to pay for my own coffee. Well, it's $5. Who gives a shit? You know what I'm saying? Like you guys haven't even gotten to know each other yet. Right?
Degree of attractiveness.
Women would be happier if they did. There was a book called Learn to Settle for Misery.
Ooh, Sam says, heard a theory that the better your BO smells to someone, the further away you are genetically, prevents you from being attracted to a distant relative. No idea if it's true. Wouldn't be surprised.
Right Now, not Mr. Right. It was written by a woman. and she did an experiment where she looked and she asked men, what are your qualities?
AF Racing says Hutch is watching the president talking. We're watching a meaningless debate on dating. Just saying. AF Racing, I'll go ahead and I'll summarize it for you. Trump's going to do something bad, and Hutch is going to say, "Yeah, that's bad."
That you're looking for in women, and they'd list 5 or 6 qualities, right? And they'd vary, pretty generic stuff. And then she asked women the same question, and they had lists 30 items long, right? And there does again.
Hold on, Bud123 says, "Don't the women who are stopping dating you for one little turn off not that interested into you?" Yeah, sure, but as somebody who is proudly married to a woman with late stage OCD. Listen, women need to build up their patience for bad behavior.
This is because women are more desirable. They're the ones who are the choosers and selectors in the dating marketplace. We get that, right? But at the same time, their standards are exceptionally high in many cases.
Do you think they're too high?
In many cases, yes. I think someone who's looking for 6 figures, 6 what was it? 6 inches,
6 packs, 6 figures, 6 inches.
Oh,
Yeah.
666.
Yeah, the 666. I think that okay, like if you can get that, by all means, but most of y'all ain't getting that.
Group of women. I think it's just like that's a very small group of women who I do believe are looking for those things, and most of the time,
it's not. You guys want to stream snipe real quick? AF was complaining that we weren't doing something meaningful, and I want to just check on something meaningful real quick.
We have a very safe city. This is one of the.
Are they adding more and more gold? This is like a Monty Python skit. It's just every time we go to the Oval Office now, there's more and more gold. It used to be just these
It's because Donald Trump wants to be a French king.
things. Now you got this fucking thing. You got all this trimming up here. Oops.
America, from all over the world, from prisons coming in, pouring into our country. Nobody, not one person, and this is done by a liberal group, a liberal think tank. They do the work. Not one person has come into our country. Think of that. It's been amazing. And I didn't have to go back to Congress and ask. Biden could have done this by himself. I did. I said.
He's saying that.
We had the great Tom Homan.
He's saying that not one single person has come across the border while he was president. Is that what he's saying?
Fantastic job.
Yeah, I don't, dude. This is terrible. Like, no offense. Like, sure, this is important. Okay, it's important that the president, through executive order and directions towards ICE and all these major institutions, that he effectively has made America so unattractive to immigrants that we're down to like 0 net immigration, and also there might even be like people who are leaving. That's going to have very weird, very messed up consequences for the economy. But you know what? We just got to ride it out for the next 6 months. Besides that, it's like listening to a toddler, bro. Like, I don't want to listen to a toddler. Okay. Weirdly enough, Whick and Charlie and Soy Pill, and I forget this girl's name, and Dev and this guy and Star, they're smarter than the president of the United States right now. So I'd rather listen to somebody with an IQ above 80 who doesn't have dementia.
I don't think men are going to be attracted to those women. It's probably, I'm going to be honest, rich men who are going to be dealing with those types of women. It's not going to be like a regular schmegular guy. And I feel like I could like pick anyone out of a crowd and be like, she's probably dating down if we were to consider it. And I also think dating apps is not really a good example, because if I'm being honest, if I'm on a dating app with all the choices, why wouldn't I pick the guy who's 6'6", makes over $150,000 a year?
Not exactly.
Like,
it's not something you've done that's immoral. I'm not trying to.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, it kind of makes sense in that way.
Just real quick, he asked for a
right. But how is this
issue
caused by
towards
women
men
at
that
all,
are
even?
caused by women, and that is
why is that caused by women? If it's an 80-20 split on dating apps, men typically, I don't know if you look at generic men's dating app profiles, are usually dog shit and they take bad photos because they don't take good photos with their friends. Very poor lighting. Don't put work into themselves at all. And so yeah, if you have an 80-20 split, and like Mooncake said, you're looking for someone desirable, and 9 out of 10 of these people are just like, oh wow, this is an immediate like weird photo with nothing in the bio that interests me at all. Why would you swipe right there? Like,
ooh, so I have really good advice. I have really good advice for hey, okay, for Twitter DMs or for DMs in general. Okay, if you say hey to me, like I'm 99% of the time I'm not going to respond to you. Okay, I want to know, and that's because I have things to offer. I have things to talk to people about, right? So I'm running the Warhammer channel. I'm running the politics channel. I'm streaming. I'm doing post-recorded content. I'm doing all this crazy shit, right? And so as a result, there could be 10 different people who want 10 different things from me, all with like different variations. And so when you say hey to me in a DM, HEY, comma, then I'm just like, dude, I don't have time to like dig into your bullshit. Tell me who you are and tell me what you want. And so I have to assume that it's similar for women, where if they have a bunch of dudes, and let's say that it's like a bunch of like mediocre looking dudes, some ugly dudes and some attractive dudes, and they all say, hey, well, if they have something that's actually worth something, which is probably, you know, their access to their sexuality, then they're going to already scrub out all of the ugly dudes that say, hey. They're going to scrub out probably a majority of the average dudes that say, hey, and they might even reject some of the attractive dudes that say, hey, because you're not really like doing anything interesting, getting anybody's attention, telling them what you want, et cetera, et cetera. So anyways, yeah, exactly. Grassroots says you got to get Conor's attention like an Irishman and DM him, oi, you fucking wanker. I guarantee you, there's a 99% chance higher that I'm going to respond to a DM saying, oi, you fucking wanker, than somebody saying, hey, smiley face, right? And so my advice to you in DMs, not that I've actually lived out this advice, but my advice would be to try to come up with something relatively clever as an opener, or something inquisitive, or something interesting about yourself, right? And so as an example, let's say that I was going to DM my wife. I'm trying to think like about the things that we had in common. Well, we're both like dog people, or at least we used to be dog people. I'm still a dog person. She's more of a kid person now. But I'd be like, oh, hey, you know, I saw on your profile that you had this kind of dog or whatever. I actually love that breed. I have this dog, blah, 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 blah. Right? And so the whole point of it is that she could see that message and be like, ew, this guy's like shooting his shot. I don't think he looks good. You know, it's kind of like a weird opener. I don't give a fuck. Fuck this guy. And she could block it. Alternatively, if she's like, oh shit, this guy probably likes dogs. He actually got the breed right. You know, like that's kind of cool. That's interesting. Let's start yapping. Right. So you kind of need to open it up, or else you're just going to get rejected because you're going to blend into, it's noise versus signal. Noise is noise. It's a sound, right? Signal is something that you can interpret into something useful. You need to be signal, not noise.
Why is that perpetuated by women if not men not putting more work into themselves to make themselves more desirable?
I mean, I also think that we're not thinking.
Grassroots says if you have trouble meeting women and have like no third spaces, get a dog. Right, because you could go to the dog park or you could go for walks. Absolutely.
I do think that dating apps make these things more difficult on purpose so that they keep people hooked in to keep using the app.
Paul says, got it. Next time I'll slide into her DMs and I'll respond with, oi, you wanker. Listen, I'm not saying that that's going to work 100% of the time, but there's, what is it? It's actually really funny. There's this thing called, what is it? It's Tampa Bay Pirate Festival. Gasparilla. Okay. And there was this girl who I knew in college, and Gasparilla Pirate Parade. It's basically like in Titusville, in Tampa, it's a pirate parade where they sail a pirate ship and everybody goes downtown and they just get dressed up like pirates and they get wasted. Okay. And so there was this girl who went to Gasparilla, and she's just like a total artsy fartsy cosplay weirdo. And while I didn't open the DM with, oi, you wanka, I guarantee you that based off of her personality, there was probably like a 70% chance that she would respond to that DM. So you also have to like judge personality too, right? Like, are they funny? Are they into like, you know, cosplay or cons or Star Wars or Warhammer or whatever? You know, if it's a part of their profile, they might not be like the typical money grubbing, gold digging woman who's just like trying to get on some dude's yacht and go to Dubai so she can make $100,000 sleeping with a camel. You know what I'm saying? Like that's all the red pill talks about, is like Instagram e-thoughts trying to sell their sexuality for money. But that's not most women. That's like the top 10% of women. And even out of the top 10% of women who are like attractive, plenty of them have problems in these spheres. They might be very physically attractive, but their personality might be dog shit. Their finances might be dog shit. They might have no emotional intelligence. They might have very limited or no life goals. Their self-confidence could be dog shit. And so as a result, like, don't look for that. You know what I'm saying? Be open, be playful, turn it into a game. But checking in with chat, and just real quick, Shill, like the stream, share it with your friends. If you're enjoying yourself, participate in chat. Lots of cool, interesting, fun people hanging out in chat, having a good time. Watch the VODs, love the VODs, enjoy the VODs. Super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. Thank you for being here. AF Racing says, just pointing out a trend, bruv. Get mad if you want, but if you look back at your last 10 streams, you'll see a lot of you talking about YouTube politics and not actual politics. Sure, but politics, listen, AF Racing, I'm not mad, but I'm saying that the real, let's take a look right here. I'm gonna show you something. So let's go to YouTube, pondering politics. Okay, pondering politics. He's doing Trump, mainstream media debate, Gavin Newsom, Trump, Vance, Trump, Bill Maher. This is real politics right now. Real politics is just maybe Gavin Newsom should be the presidential elect and Trump's new bad thing. That's what politics is right now. And I have a feeling you could probably guess my opinion on 90% of this. And then same thing with, I don't know, who's like another favorite. Let's check Destiny real quick. Although I do know that he's going to be involved in the drama too. But even with Destiny, where's the videos tab? Videos tab. Trump / Bolton, Jubilee debate, Trump, Hassan Piker, Trump, Newsom, Xena drama, Trump, Tectone drama, debate, Hassan drama, Econo Boy. So, I mean, Destiny's doing the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Where he's covering more of online politics than he is real world politics. But that's because, I don't know, man, just from my perspective, I would rather talk about the ideas than talk about current events. I'll nestle the ideas within personalities. But realistically, what we've been talking about for the past hour is dating, incel versus volcel, dating strategies, trying to become a good man, all the ways in which we evaluate attractiveness. This is all stuff that I wish I knew when I was 17. I'll tell you that.
And they want to encourage men to pay for the premiums so that they're more likely to be seen by women. But also, I think that dating apps, regardless of your gender or like who you're trying to date or whatever, dating apps are kind of dehumanizing because it's reducing people to data points.
Rattel used to have a joke about it. You don't actually need the dog. You just need a leash and walk around the dog park saying, Sparky? Sparky? That's evil.
And I don't think that they're good for anyone, frankly. I don't care for dating apps at all, no matter if you're getting...
True, dating apps probably suck.
I don't know, a lot of clicks or not.
Well, not long term for sure, right? Like you
apps
can hook up on them, but you're not going to find a long-term partner. But when you have
Plenty of people
just
do,
the
to
top
be fair.
20%, well, I met my wife on Plenty of Fish, so I'll agree with you there. But
I don't think that
I think
good for most people for long-term relationships. Yeah, because even for women, you're kind of.
Sacred Snow says, gotta say, Connor, the whole segment is really hurting your chances of selling self-improvement courses. Why? Because I'm doing it for free, or it's bad advice? If it's bad advice, I want to hear your different advice.
You're sifting through a sea of like what Soy Pill said, a sea of like really weird photos, and then
Jonazilla says, I go with the tried and true. Damn, that ass is fat. What's your pronouns? Truth be told, that is better than hey. That's infinitely funnier than hey. That's infinitely better than hey. Absolutely.
and when you get past the weird photos, you get some decent photos, you get people with actual bios. How many of these people are like, you're still thinking about your safety at the end of the day, right? And you're thinking about like, you know, when you meet up with this person, okay, like,
Rhinox says, do I not stream on my channel anymore? I stream on the Counterpoints channel on Tuesdays, Monday through Friday. Besides Tuesdays, I'm on Valor Media Network, 9:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m.
you are taking a risk, right? When you meet up with anybody. And then like in the long term, we're, you know, women do tend to be more selective because also like how often do these
Acoustic says, do you know if the dating landscape and strategies are different between the Europe and the US? Absolutely they are. I think in the United States, we actually do have a culture where anyone can approach anybody. And so I know that if you're an Indian man or an Asian girl, or if you're a fat black chick or something like that, I know it can be uncomfortable to date. And I know that it can be uncomfortable to deal with like the subconscious and conscious biases of other people who are judging you while you're trying to create friendships and relationships and all that kind of stuff. I think in Europe, there are plenty of open-minded liberal and progressive people. So I'm not saying that it's totally true, but because there's so many ethno-religious groups, I think that it's infinitely more common to bump into people who associate exclusively with their ethno-religious group. And it's for predictable reasons. It's because they want to speak the same language. They want to be able to meet your parents and understand them. They want you to be able to meet their parents and understand them. So you can 100% date people in Europe, but I think there's that additional layer of having so many cultures compressed together within such a small geographic area that there are going to be people who, if you spoke the same language and shared the same culture, you would be in each other's league as far as like attractiveness goes. But because of the language and cultural barrier, they're just not even going to bother trying to date you because they're not interested in dating a foreigner.
Like long-term relationships end and then there's a child involved, and what percentage of the time is it the woman who is the primary caregiver of this child after that relationship ends, right?
She should have picked better.
Dating apps are
Okay,
normal
that's
for
actually
some
wait, real quick. That's another one of my points, Rabbit Wombat. Wick, do you think women choose bad men?
Sorry, Possum Nation says they need a plenty of cats for cat enjoyers. Dude, that would slap so hard, but it would be so many cat ladies. That would be great though. Like if you were a cat guy and there was a dating app called Plenty of Cats and it was exclusively like cat women and cat guys, dude, that would facilitate a lot of relationships.
Yes, and I think men choose bad women. Frankly, I think
Because
that-
like the incel talking point is really this idea that like you look at these single
I think a shitload of women make really bad decisions about the men they date, but I also understand that their perspective, it's like the entire dating scene is fraught and dangerous.
women with, you know, deadbeat fathers. You look at like
Dang, are those male breasts or female breasts, huh? Jesus. Paul, try that on Hinge. Let us know how it swings. Cameron Mosley says, today I got done doing a 1 hour walk. I feel good. Dude, that's excellent. I started doing nightly walks with the dogs, and I'm not going to lie, it's massively improved my cardio. Like I know it's not a lot, and people would probably laugh because it's actually just walking around like 4 blocks, 5 blocks with the dogs. But I swear to God, doing that once a day, 5 days a week, just for the past week, maybe 2 weeks, it actually has regulated my heart where I don't get out of breath as often. And I think it's good. I think it's good just to do basic bitch cardio. It's better than nothing for sure. Sacred Snow says, I'm more meaning on how all the red-pilled chuds sell courses by saying women are all hypergamous hoes. Here's how to be high value. If you can get bitches without being the highest value male, why do you need courses? True. Although, weirdly enough, I agree with you. You don't have to have a Bugatti. You don't have to, you know, I don't know, be a finance bro, right? Like, let's say that you're a 4 on the male attractiveness scale, right? Let's say that you're a 4. And by dressing nice and by getting good clothes, you can bump up to a 6. And then let's say on a personality, you're like a 2. But you stop being a rude piece of shit. You start being polite and you treat everyone the way that you want to be treated. And you also like are very gracious and kind. These are all things that you can change. So you could go from, on a personality level, you can go from like a 2 to like an 8. You know what I'm saying? Easily. From a finance perspective, let's not worry too much about finances, but let's say that you're at the bottom of the barrel and then you're just able to get into the middle, right? Like you're just able to be a plumber or something and make like 60 grand a year, or a pipe fitter, or a salesperson or a manager, and you're able to make, I don't know, 60 grand a year, 70 grand a year. And then let's say you're an autist like me and you have almost no emotional intelligence, but you try to pay attention. And so as a result, you're able to bump up. Then life goals, you should always be able to max out your life goals. And realistically, this should just be compatibility. If your partner doesn't want kids and wants to travel the world, then you need to match their life goals if that's what you truly want. If they want kids and a life, then you just need to match. So this is actually something you can max out all the time. And then self-confidence, if you're desperate and needy and whiny, that's going to turn off everybody. So you can bump self-confidence, you know, to the halfway mark just by not being like a whiny, needy bitch. And so as a result, if before you were like a 2 and you had some traits that made you more realistically a 0, you could probably get up to a 5 or 6 and then date a chick who's like a 5 or a 6, but realistically she's hot for you, right? So that's where, you know, hot, you don't need to be dating clones of, I'm trying to think of that girl who everybody thought was hot. Megan Fox. You don't need to be dating a clone of Megan Fox. You just need to be dating somebody that you find attractive, who has a good personality for you, who makes enough money that you guys can share finances and have a good life, who has enough emotional intelligence that you guys are compatible, who share life goals, and who doesn't think that you're like a whiny, annoying piece of shit. Like, it's actually overall, the game is incredibly complicated because it's hard. It's hard to want to be good. However, the rules of the game are actually incredibly simple.
Like people that get abused, you look at all of this and it's like this.
Yeah, Cameron Mosley says, I'm gonna keep taking walks and working out with weights. Bro, keep going. Keep going, man. It's good for you. Keep going.
Idea that this is women's fault for not choosing better.
Hold on. If you are man or woman on your 10th relationship where the same damn thing keeps happening to you, maybe it is your fault. Maybe it is your fault. I'm just saying.
Vincent Neal says the standard is assuming I'm a creep when I approach as an Indian guy, Bob's and Vagine type shit. Well, Vincent Neal, then you just kind of realize that that is going to be a meme where they're just going to assume that you're sexually aggressive because you're like an Indian guy. But that's where I would just try to be like wildly charming, you know? For instance, I'm trying to think of like, is there like a charming Indian Bollywood guy? Guy flirts. Bollywood guy flirts. I don't know. Bollywood might be incredibly.
Your iconic line.
I gotta tell you, you look as beautiful and pristine, as absolutely serene as an oceanside moonlight beam on my face.
See, that's corny as shit, and obviously he's a good-looking guy, so that's why she's laughing and not slapping him in the face. But you see how he has this kind of like soft, uwu, sweet boy, non-threatening energy? That's just what you need to replicate. You need to replicate the non-threatening vibes, or you need to find a chick who's into the threatening vibes.
Like if you were on relationship 5 where someone has
Baby Daddy
treated you a
4
certain way, right, and acted a certain way, maybe you do have to look at your selection process and think.
Rob, have you seen the guy who catfishes dating apps for guys with fishing photos to get their favorite fishing spot? Incredible content. No, that's awesome though.
Why do I continue to select for this quality?
Well, I want to go back to what Mooncake said
before you date them. With
I want to go back to what Mooncake said before, though, right? Because she said, okay, sure, they're picking these men, but they're not helping enough at home. They're not providing emotional support. They're not doing all these other things. Those are the criteria.
Jonah says they need to make generic brand cars so we can have Ducatis and Lamborghinis. Bro, why don't we do that, man? Why don't we do let's say you know, the streaming YouTube creation, sci-fi, Star Wars 40K stuff. Let's say that it goes well, okay? And let's say that we start a fake Bugatti thing where we buy a Nissan Altima, because let's face it, it's reliable, good mileage, decent pickup, whatever, very reliable sedan. But then we get a Bugatti body kit and we just install Bugatti body kits on Nissan Altimas. So guys who can afford $20,000 to $30,000 cars, they can get what looks like a Bugatti, but is actually a very sensible sedan. And just like help like the average Joe look like he has a fucking supercar, but for 30 grand instead of 200. Oh shit. My stand has fallen off. Oh, dude, I would do this. I would 100% do this. I would love to put body kits on a fucking $30,000 sedan. I think that'd be hilarious. Office Massey says, hey, Conor, last few days you said you were going to talk with the D-Man about walking down recovery and atonement. How did that conversation go? I'm sorry if I missed it. You just say I'm just going to go live. I'm probably going to talk to him in person. I'm not just going to be like, hey, here's all these religious conceptions that you're aware of from your Jesuit school, and here's what I think you need to do morally. I'm not going to send that via Discord DM, but we might be. I don't know if it's too hot for him. I don't know if it'll be too hot for me. I don't know. But we were supposed to hang out Labor Day weekend, so I'll just double check with him and see if he's still down for that, and if he is, I'll hang out with him in person, and we could just talk in person, bro to bro. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see how he feels. We'll see how I feel. So right now, I would probably go down, but I also need to make sure that all the money stuff lines up too. Sacred Snow says, yeah, Conor, but what if I told you you could be a 10 in finance and a 1 in everything else and you'll still pull 10s? Now buy my book on drop shipping. Yeah, I mean, that's unironically, that is the sales pitch from the Red Pill Bros is... Which, by the way, I think it's so funny. Thank you for bringing this up, Sacred Snow. I think you're totally right. So what's crazy about the Red Pill guys is that they say just max out this and you don't have to do anything else. Like, you could look like shit. Sorry. You could look like shit. You could have a dog shit personality. You can have shitty emotional intelligence. You can have incompatible life goals. You can have no self-confidence. But as long as you create a business that makes you a millionaire, then not only will all these things be pulled up artificially through your success, but also you'll have access to Instagram e-thoughts. And so you'll be able to pull chicks who are 10s in the physical attractiveness scale, but they have no personality, no finances, no emotional intelligence, no life goals, and no self-confidence. Which, like, what a dog shit way to live. This is actually why I'm genuinely pissed about like Red Pill content being so popular. Is it's such a, not only is it an inaccurate picture, because climbing to the top of the financial thing is actually infinitely more difficult than these guys give it credit for. That's why they run Ponzi schemes, so they themselves can get to the top of the financial thing. But also, like, what a dog shit way to live. To be an ugly dude who knows that you're only with hot chicks because you're maxed out on finance, but your personality, emotional intelligence, life goals, and self-confidence are all dog shit. What a terrible way to live a life. Like genuinely. Steve Supreme says, I realize I can't type to save my life. Well, good luck with that. Or just don't try to date racists. I mean, easier said than done. We're all a little racist, right? Beef Supreme says, we talk all these other points, and the cold hard truth is sex is a bigger factor than all the other put together. For most people, that is, a lot of relationships are dictated by the bedroom. Well, but Beef Supreme, I would say that the reason why the bedroom is so extreme is because we've de-emphasized all these other positions of value. And that's why we actually have such dysfunctional relationships. Because especially when you're young, the emphasis is on physical attractiveness. So smart, attractive chicks bang dudes who are smart, but they have no personality, they have no finances, they have no emotional intelligence, they have no life goals, and they could be self-confident, but they mistake like bravado for actual genuinely earned self-confidence. And so that's where I would say, like, this is part of the, you're right that a lot of people just focus on physical attractiveness, but that's why relationships are so dysfunctional, because you should be looking at these other domains of competence as well. Anyways, I need to use the restroom again. I'll be back in 30 seconds. Quick show before I do. Like the stream, share it with your friends, engage in chat, super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. I parasocially love you. Thank you for being here.
Area that women should be looking at, right? And I think that's something when we talk about, are they choosing, should they lower their standards? I don't think they should lower them. I think they should reprioritize them. And as women start becoming more self-sufficient, more consistently, they should say, I don't need a man for money, for support to be able to go back into the workforce. I need someone who was raised in a way that they know how to cook. They do their own laundry. They'll do my laundry. They'll negotiate boundaries. And as our lives change and I get busier and they get less, we'll renegotiate the split of effort at home. All these things have nothing to do with how much he's making, how tall he is. There's no 666 in any of that. And I think that's where women can be better.
You don't think that women mostly do those things other than the salary thing? I mean, obviously there is. I don't know if this is a bubble that I'm in, but women are constantly looking for men who can cook, men who can share in the chores, men who can negotiate and split things in ways that make sense. And a lot of men can't do any of that shit. A lot of men can't even do their own laundry, which is kind of unfortunate.
At what point in the relationship though, right? Because I think when you're looking at the dating app, when you're going out and you're hitting the bar in that, it's that first set of criteria is the 666. And then 6, 12, 18 months later, that's when the second evaluation.
Well, that's when that comes up, right? On your first date, you're not like, hey, do you do laundry? Can you cook? That's not usually stuff you would ask like right away.
Well, you should probably have an idea of that before
like,
you start dating someone.
Like women who are short don't have an idea. Oh, go ahead, Star.
Oh no, I was just saying that any man, even when you meet these guys for the first time, any man can say that he does cook for himself. Any man can say that he does do his laundry regularly. But when it actually comes to show, when you actually learn to see whether they can, is when you've been in that long-term relationship, and then you're like, oh,
true.
Oh, is this person just having a bad month, or are they, or are they really just not good at this? And then the second month happens, and then the third month happens, and then before you know it, you've been with them for a whole year, and then
Ved Sunil says, I'll regrow my handlebar mustache and LARP as a space fascist and hope for the best. No. Yes. Also gain more muscle and continue to be a gym cell. Okay. Gym cell shit, I absolutely support. So Indians actually have a lot of bodybuilders. And I'm not saying you need to be a bodybuilder, but I'm just saying, like, there are in shape Indian dudes, like, for sure. Like this is freakish. This is like Schwarzenegger level shit. So I wouldn't do steroids, but I would just lift consistently. And then also, man, like, I don't know if you have a good facial hair or like good facial structure. If you have good facial structure, then shave and show off. If you have a good chin, show off your good chin, right? But what I would say is that if you beards are like, I swear to God, they're like +5. Like they're easily like if you can grow a good beard, I think beards are like a +2 attractiveness. Now, when you actually smoochy kiss, kind of inconvenient. Not a lot of women necessarily like making out with a bearded face. However, just grow it out until it's like smooth, and they tend to care less. All right. Bud123 says, for me, I don't care what I would do to contribute to a family or wife as long as my partner is doing her fair share too. I like to get stuff done, such as cooking and doing dishes. Okay, cool. Car fishing. Yeah, exactly. Dr. Zai says, bongers used to be really into kit cars where it would be like a VW Beetle floor pan with a Ferrari Testarossa body kit. Yes. Kikode says, wish I could afford a $30K car. Sure, but there's going to be a floor on this. Like I think a Nissan Altima is going to be like a 20K car, even if you buy it stock. And then I think a Ferrari body kit or a Bugatti body kit is going to be a minimum of $5,000 to $10,000. So, yeah.
You know, and yeah, so it like kind of
it sometimes doesn't even
Anyone
show
can
up
hold in
star
a
until
party
you
without
move in
that
together, which is kind of like the idea that Wick, you say, well, they shouldn't be keeping, you know, if you are 5 abusive relationships in a row, it's like you can't tell someone's abusive necessarily on the first date. Sometimes not even until like 6 months in, when they get comfortable, they feel like they've won you over. And
Well, QC John says, isn't Destiny ironically the living embodiment of the red pill? Well, that's funny. That's something that John Zerka said. So John Zerka was like, oh, bro, you pretend to be like this like super feminist, giga soy, whatever, but you're more red pill than the rest of us because you're just like slanging D left, right, and center. And realistically, you've finance maxed. And I actually have something funny to say. This is going to be, a lot of people are going to judge me for this, probably including Steven. So I would say Steven's like not a bad looking guy, but he doesn't max, right? So I think Steven could probably max up to like a 6. You know what I'm saying? So let's say he's like a 5. I think if he like aesthetic maxed and worked out, he could definitely max out to like a 6, maybe even a 7, right? Personality, I would say Steven is actually pretty high. And you're like, hey, he's an autistic internet spurg who yells at people for a living. You know, how could his personality be that high? But the truth is, he's actually really charismatic and really funny. And his banter is like second to none. Like I've just seen this dude like talking to chicks in real life and on the internet, obviously, but he'll just like banter back and forth in a way that chicks actually do tend to like, right? Then finances is obviously maxed out. Emotional intelligence, I'm going to put super low. Well, I'm going to put it right in the middle because he's actually a fairly emotionally intelligent guy, but he's very like selfish, right? Life goals is like a 0. Steven has like a negative life goal because he wants to do his thing and his thing alone. So even if you're like a party chick, he probably doesn't party enough for party chicks. And he doesn't, as far as I know, he doesn't want a family. And so like the trads, he wouldn't be compatible with the trads and he wouldn't be compatible with the party chicks either. And then self-confidence, he's like, you know, crazy high too. So the whole point is that with this stuff, while everybody dogs on Steven for maybe not being the most like physically attractive person, he actually does quite well in all these other competitive domains, except for like life goals. I would actually say that because he wants to do what he wants to do when he wants to do it, he probably doesn't party enough for the party girls. And then because he's also not like a family focused guy, he's not family focused enough for family girls. So his life goals are actually probably one of his worst domains. That's interesting. There we go. Resetting my incel chart.
And now that they're comfortable, they're like, hey, I've trapped you. You have commitment to me and I can push it a little further. So that's why it's like, that's the incel rhetoric is like, women choose bad partners. And it's like, well, there's just a lot of shitty men out there. And
There
it's hard to
are a
sift
lot of
through
shitty
them.
men, but we have to, again,
There's a very
a lot of shitty women out there too.
Can I do that? Is my wife gonna get mad at me? This is actually going to be really funny, and this is a family show, so I'll try to use as much sanitized language as possible. So I'm gonna put hog. All right, there's not much you can do about the hog, right? Because it's kind of determined, right? But let's say that you're a 4. Now, I'm not a 4, but let's say that you're a 4, all right? Obviously, most girls want like a 6 or a 7. And then there's some girls out there who want like a 10. But realistically, like 10s are more for show than they are for actual use. And I've talked to guys who have 10ers, And the guys who have tenors or whatever, they say like all the girls talk like a big game about how they want to hang out, how they want to hook up, how they want to do this, how they want to do that. And then when they actually hook up, it's actually the worst because they have to pull their proverbial punches because they will hurt the other person, right? So talking about hog, but I think that there's a +2 benefit keeping this sanitized and using as sanitized language as I possibly can. I think there's a +2 benefit for if you're good with your hands or good with other parts of your body. Okay. So I'm going to erase this, but all I'm going to say is whatever you are, you are. So if you're a 3, you're a 3. If you're a 5, you're a 5. If you're a 6, good for you. If you're a 7, good for you. If you're an 8, good for you. If you're a 10, you're probably going to start having other problems. But I would say that you can probably get a +2 if you're otherwise good. That's about as clean as I can make those sentences.
Statistic. There's a very important statistic, right? A huge amount of domestic violence does not start until the woman is pregnant. That like a large percentage of domestic violence and domestic violence in relationships only begins the first time when a woman is pregnant. And that is an alarming stat, but it is the truth. So how are you supposed to tell when somebody's abusive, when the first time they're physically abusive with you is when you are at your most vulnerable, when you are pregnant?
I will say, and I completely agree with you, Star. I will say, as someone that for the majority of my life has picked bad people, there were always signs first. And what that is, I think that there are definitely people of all genders who don't have a good basis.
Doobie says, I actually prefer to do all the cleaning because it's a good time for me to zone out and think about the day. Also, I'm a little bit of a clean freak, so I'd rather just do it and ensure it's done right. And I'm sure your wife loves you for that, by the way.
For what healthy relationships look like, and then they get trapped in cycles of abuse and don't really know how to pick out the signs. And I would wager
that's
that
your fault, Charlie.
Do I think it's my fault?
Yeah.
No, it's not my fault. My parents sucked.
No bootstrap arguments for Charlie there, Soy?
No
Because that's all you've
bootstraps
given from
arguments.
in.
Yeah, that's
No,
the
it's
problem
not.
when
Pick
men have a
better,
problem.
Charlie.
It's
That's
not men's
true,
fault.
though.
Listen, I know men who
Kay says Destiny is not a 5. Destiny is a 7 to 8 overall from a female perspective. But Kay, that's where I would actually say, I'm not going to go back and redraw it, but I would actually say that some people are quite critical of Destiny's appearance. But if you actually look at the other domains, he's actually like personality. I would say he's an 8 to a 10. Finances, 8 to a 10. Emotional intelligence, weirdly enough, a 5, but that's a 10 for a guy, right? Life goals, he's a -2. Self-confidence, he's like a 10. So if let's do now the confidence thing, that's a double-edged sword, right? But let's say that we do 10 plus -2 plus emotional intelligence. I'll put a 5, even though that's like a 10 for a guy, plus 10 on finance, plus I'll say an 8 for personality because he can be quite abrasive, plus let's say 5. I know you're saying that it's not overall, but I'm just saying it. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6 domains of confidence. So you're saying that I already know 6 divided by 6 is 6, but you're saying, but if we do the male emotional intelligence, what do they call that? You grade people on a curve. A 5 emotional intelligence is a 10 woman emotional intelligence, right? So if we actually put Steven on a 10, then yeah, overall he would be a 7 or an 8, right? But that's overall because he dominates some of these domains of responsibility, right? So, yep.
who have picked really bad, and it's because they've had a really fucked up, awful childhood. And, at some point, like, it does become your fault. It became my fault when I, developed enough, like, critical thinking skills to go, my God, I am someone that has been therapized I'm, I have people in my life who support and love me who are pointing these things.
This is happening. Says, is the hog graph scale in inches or centimeters? Asking for the international audience. I was talking in inches, bro. I was talking in inches. 3 centimeters is a little tough. I'm not gonna lie.
Things out to me. What I can do is like work on not making dumbass idiot decisions, which I have done in the past. So at some point you reach an age where it's like, okay, get it the fuck together.
But does
It is
me
25
saying, and
so many
Charlie,
resources out there to
Conservative liberals was like, oh dear lord, I just came back from lunch and we've got a hog chart.
to get your shit together.
Charlie, I'm going to ask you directly. When I say that, hey, women out there, if you're choosing men and you're on your 5th man and he's acting the same way as all the other men before him, like, you should probably look to yourself and try to find out what you are doing wrong when you're choosing men. Is that incel rhetoric to you, or incel adjacent? Is that anywhere close?
It's getting close, but the
Fast and Bulbous says the panel's low energy. I know, that's why I'm just interacting with chat. And like, I'm not trying to hate too much on it. They are talking about this stuff, but what really realistically happened in this panel, I'm not trying to be too rude, is the reason why the topic is Whick incel adjacent interesting is because it's, if Whick buys into enough descriptive incel arguments, then he could be viewed as sweeping for the incel community. But already in the panel, we've had Whick say, well, I agree with the descriptive issues, but realistically, I still try to encourage young men and myself to be as white-pilled as possible and work on as much of our degrees of competence as possible, which is fine. That kind of like ends the conversation right there, because even if descriptively he agrees with the incels, he still has like a pro-social prescription. And then the girls have made it about themselves. Like, no offense, but like what they do, they spent like 20 minutes on whether or not it's bad to be a woman, whether or not there's problems with being a woman. Like, we all know there's problems with being a woman. Being a 6 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10 man is better than being an 8 out of 10 women. I would say exponentially, right? However, being a 2 out of 10 man is infinitely worse than being a 2 out of 10 woman. So for women, there's a easier floor. For men, there's no floor. You can just fall into the pits of hell and no one will give a shit. And then the ceiling for men is better. And for women, there's a ceiling where no matter how attractive you are, some aspects of your life are just going to suck ass, right? We've all established this, but that's not even the original topic. The original topic is Whick an incel or incel adjacent, and is he normalizing toxic rhetoric? Which, as liberals or progressives, they should be coming up with the talking points, not me.
Axioms there are completely fine, right? Star, you're echoing a little bit, but yeah, the idea of like, hey, if you have seen the same pattern 5 times, you haven't changed. Yeah, you can put a little blame on them. The problem is incel rhetoric is the epidemic of women choosing.
Chart says I'm too heterosexual to understand Destiny's appeal to women. It's something that has confused me for years. I mean, I literally just explained it via chart form, so I think you got it.
Bad men, the epidemic of single mothers who chose bad men. That's the incel rhetoric, and I don't know necessarily how close you are to that, but would you consider?
You guys are misunderstanding the goals chart. The goals chart is not whether or not somebody is ambitious. The goals chart is whether or not your ambitions align with your partner.
An epidemic of bad decision making on women's parts?
I don't know about epidemic's a weird word to use, but there is plenty of it, and it is in what we do in society, though, and I see this all the time, is we coddle women about this. We're like, oh, it's okay, it's not your fault. We yas queen them. Yes, queen. It's just those evil men. We do this all the time.
I'm sorry. When 20% or close to 20% of women experience domestic violence for the first time during pregnancy, how the fuck are they supposed to pick better men?
Bruh, why are we talking about that? Why are we talking about incels?
Carefully.
Yeah, more carefully than they are. Look, no one is at fault.
A lot of them are
give real
young
advice.
and don't like this is
Return to arranged marriages.
And
That's the
also,
plan.
how do women get coddled with domestic abuse and violence?
I'm not
and
talking about
sexual
domestic
assault?
abuse
I
and
think
violence
that's
and sexual assault.
crazy.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when women complain that their men are deadbeat dads, that their men are not helping around the house, when their men are just not living up to their expectations, leaving them lonely, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Not romantic enough.
Yeah, exactly. There's a ton of things, right? That they
Yes, men have to be competent in multivariate analysis. Like, actually, hold on. I'm going to do a chart for that as well. But can I just do something wildly inappropriate for the conversation? Because right now they're doing Bill Burr don't hit women. So I'm gonna play this for a second. I might lose some female viewers, but let's just go for it, okay?
No, we have these huge battles. You know what the maddest she ever got at me was? One time she was watching this show, it was like a poor excuse for The View, and they started talking about domestic violence, right? For the 9 millionth time this year, they're talking about domestic violence, just in case, you didn't get the memo. Evidently, just some people didn't get it. It's not okay to slam your wife's head into the cupboard drawers because she didn't dry the can opener off properly, It's gonna fucking rust, right? How do you not know not to do that shit? Do they really have to keep talking about it? It's like wife beaters watching for, oh, fuck, now I get it. Upset daisy, sweetheart, here we go. There you go, oh. So at the end of the hour, they come to the logical conclusion. They're like, there is no reason to hit a woman. There is no reason to hit a woman. And I was just like, really? I could give you like 17 right off the top of my head. You could wake me from a drunken stupor, I could still give you like 9. Dude, there's plenty of reasons to hit a woman. You just don't do it. But to sit there and suggest that there's no reason. Dude, the level of ego behind that statement. What are you, levitating above the rest of us? You're never annoying? Women, how many times have you thought about slapping your fucking guy in the head this week? There you go. Every day.
All right, I don't want to get copyright struck, but the whole point of Bill Burr's joke, and by the way, like, it goes on for another 10 minutes, and it's so good. But the whole point is, like, there's plenty of reasons to hit people, okay? People are fucking annoying, and they piss you off, and they do the wrong thing, and they do crazy shit, and they fuck you over, and all that kind of stuff, right? But the whole point is that you don't do it, right? You don't do it because men are typically more physically powerful than women. The damage that you can do is fucking crazy. When you get physical, it's bad for your relationship, all that kind of shit. And so you, generally speaking, have this hard rule of, like, you don't hit each other within a domestic relationship, because the whole point is that it can escalate, it can get crazy, it can get abusive. So you just never start, right? And so this is where I get, like, frustrated with this conversation, where I think it's Enemy Charlie. She's saying, like, oh, well, how is it incumbent upon women to find out whether or not their partners are abusive? And it's like, I'm not saying that, like, we don't have all the myriad excuses and variables that she mentioned. Like, you're dumb, you're young, you're in love, you have super good chemistry. There's 10,000 reasons why, like, a woman can end up with an abusive partner, that maybe there were some yellow flags and some red flags, but she didn't know that until they got pregnant, right? And so I understand why it can be off-putting to women to have it incumbent upon them to choose their partners. But there's obviously, Kuro says, is this the violence justifying stream? I've been waiting for this one. No, not justification, just understanding, I guess. And so when it comes to these variables, but, like, we know the stereotypes too, right? The stereotype is, like, the chick from the hood who has 5 baby daddies for 5 kids, and every single one of them is a piece of shit, and half of them are in prison. Like, can we be critical of that woman at least? You know what I'm saying? Like, can we be critical of the woman who just, like, goes to the bar, gets blackout drunk, hooks up with, like, one dude on this Friday, hooks up with another dude the next Friday, hooks up with another dude the next Friday, hooks up with another dude the next Friday? Can we be critical of that woman's lack of discipline and lack of selection in her partners? And then can we move it in? You know what I'm saying? Like, can we move in the judgmental criteria, and maybe we'll hit a degree where it's no longer appropriate to be judgmental, but at the same time, like, we can at least agree that going to the bar, blackout drunk, and hooking up with a dude every single weekend, probably not good behavior. Having 5 different kids by 5 different baby daddies who are all in, like, half of whom are in prison, probably not a great idea, right? Then we can move the criticism in from there, and maybe we'll hit a line. So, Kuro says, is this the violence justification stream? I've been waiting for this one. Well, not on purpose, but it ended up being that. Ventanil says, he supported Luigi Mangione. That's pretty cringe. I wonder who you're talking about. Beef Supreme says, again, my wife background checked me before we met and brought the check with her to my house to show me on our first date. That's based. Bud123 says, because some women do not know how to vet and they just go based off of their feelings rather than logic or listening to processing red flags. True. Steel Manning domestic violence stream. True. If a girl has more than 2 abortions, she's crazy. I mean, I don't know the math on it, but, you know, I would lean in your direction. Grassroots says, this is the violence enthusiasm stream. The violence justifying stream is just down the hall to the left. Cacode says, about to have 6 if she keeps talking to me like that. Jesus. All right. That's a joke, to be clear. All right. It isn't difficult to be both in touch with your feelings and process red flags and think through values alignment. I agree. I'm with enemy Charlie or whatever her name is in reference to the fact that it is not solely incumbent upon women in order to constantly be looking out for abusive men. However, I think that women will oftentimes ignore red flags as long as they find the dude attractive, right? And we can also throw this on guys too, right? How many dudes have dated attractive girls because they were attractive and ignored horrible red flags? Right? But how many dudes also backed away because they knew the horrible red flags were ultimately going to destroy their life? And how many men let their lives be destroyed and then ultimately learn their lesson? And by the way, isn't this exactly Darius and Xena? Right? Isn't this exactly Darius and Xena? Like, they're in a, I think at this point, physically abusive relationship. And Darius is like a good-looking girl, and Darius is a good-looking guy, right? They're physically attractive, right? But if you look at this thing, if you look at the graph that we did, physical attractiveness, let's go ahead and throw them at the top tier. Personality, though, I'm going to put at the bottom tier. Finances, I think for one of them is at the top tier. One of them is at the bottom tier. I think Xena makes a lot of money. I think Darius doesn't make a lot. Emotional intelligence, I'm going to put that at the bottom tier. Life goals, I think they're incompatible life goals. And self-confidence, I'll put them in the middle because they're incredibly confident online creators, but they obviously have like huge self-esteem issues. And so look at this, bro. This is a fucking nightmare. This is going to fall apart. This is going to fucking implode. And we all know that it's going to implode, and they implode on stream for our amusement. But the whole reason why we're bringing this up is because, you know, obviously we have like a lot of veterans, a lot of older guys and gals. I hope that you guys like kind of see this and you understand that like these things affected your previous relationships. But I do genuinely hope that is that if we have young guns in the chat, articulating these varied competencies help you evaluate your relationships better. That is my hope. See, and we got Xena simps. Jonazilla says Xena is pretty, but she's nuts. Gen X says Xena is literal perfection physically. Both are bottom tier, says Eben, but I'm assuming he's talking about personality, not attractiveness. Melody says they're both Darius and Connor's eyes, and they're both attractive. Oh, you guys are crazy. You guys are crazy. Gen X says my queen Xena is still in jail. I put money on her books. Well, there you go. There you go. That's what I'm saying, though. They're obviously horrible for each other. They're getting into physical fights. So, yeah, stop. Get help. My recommendation.
they'll say.
But they're very
That-
good at like switching. Like sometimes I find that you'll find, especially with abuse, men will do it in very small ways. They'll start very small. Sometimes people can't tell when there's those like little changes, and then it builds up over time. And I think sometimes we have to remember that people get stuck in a situation that they're like, oh, wait, it wasn't like this 6 months ago. And unfortunately, people do that all the time. And I would say also, have you noticed when parents get divorced, a lot of the
Well, QC John says, if not for violence, I would have not met my wife. I was on a date with another girl that picked a fight with and got her ass beat by my now wife. My now wife got in my truck and punched me. I was impressed. Damn, well, QC John. That's kind of a crazy origin story, but I guess based.
times the dads aren't around. So they start turning these women into single mothers. Oh, I'm going to see my kid once every 2 weeks. And I think that's something that we do need to discuss. And we see it so often. So it is hard to tell. Maybe they were a good husband or dad during the marriage, but after the marriage, they just stop. And we do see that.
Yeah, why don't you elaborate on the coddling then, Wick? Because
Oh, Bill Burr supported Luigi Mangione. I got you. Yeah. He on occasion he does this like liberal progressive shtick, where he's from the Northeast, so he's kind of he's a little bit more liberal than most people. I think he just comes off chuddy because he's Irish and he talks about domestic violence and all that kind of shit. But yeah, I do think that if you're simping for murder, that's cringe.
I think they're making pretty good points about the abuse and how it's not like we're coddling them. If
Because
anything, it's like,
I am not
hey,
saying we're
maybe we
coddling
don't
abuse.
give them the tools to recognize it early enough. That's, you know, on society as a whole. I don't think that's a problem perpetuated by women exclusively, though.
So
to like access to abortion is so freaking important, and encouraging women not to get married super young and have children super young. Like, I'm sorry, I feel like this is how you get stuck with shit people. We need to.
I couldn't disagree more. I think abortion should be like an emergency. I think that the things that we're talking about now, where we should be educating people to be better partners and to look out for red flags in relationships, I think that's infinitely more important than a woman's ability to terminate a fetus for a guy that she had sex with. Personal opinion.
Encourage women to not get stuck with shit men.
Well,
Abort.
I
Don't get married young.
All right, women, I'm just going to say, like, I know I only have like half a dozen women in my chat, but still, like, that's cringe, dude. That's super fucking cringe. Saying that you need the ability to abort your baby or fetus because you're going to be dating douchebag guys and letting them inseminate you, that's just fucking insane. I know that it's descriptively true, but holy shit, like have we lost the plot when the statement is women need access to abortion because if they date bad guys and allow themselves to be inseminated, they need to be able to, under 18 weeks, abort the fetus, and over 18 weeks, in my opinion, commit infanticide. That's a crazy fucking sentence to be said out loud, very casually. Kay says, it can be hard to know what a person will truly be like until you're too far involved. I wish I had listened to my gut, but I confused red flags from my fear of commitment. Right. And relationships are complicated. Grassroots says, I'm not effing kidding, dude. This is not a purpose, lol. Yeah, well, I'm sympathetic. So as an example, I have a family friend, okay? And the family friend effectively was dating a guy. She was super serious. She loved him. And he said that he loved her and was realistically like a really charismatic guy, like really charming, working a job, paying his bills, taking care of business, et cetera, et cetera. Well, what ended up happening was the same week that she found out that she was pregnant, she also found out that he was cheating on her and had given her an STD. Okay. And so as a result, and that STD had like some complications that might like injure or kill any baby or fetus or whatever. If the STD was untreated, but two, if you treated the STD, it could hurt or fuck up the kid, right? Potential kid. And so she had an abortion. And so for me, I try to empathize with being in that position. And there's an instinctive part of me where I don't think that morally it's the right move. However, I also could not imagine compelling her through the state to continue with that pregnancy, especially because she caught it like very early. She caught it at like 5 weeks or 6 weeks. And so, yeah, that's where for me, like, I would never like celebrate this though. I would never shout the abortion by saying like, oh yeah, she was sleeping with a douchebag who was acting not like a douchebag. She got pregnant, got an STD, and then that's why she needed the abortion. I wouldn't be like happy about that, or I wouldn't be say that that's what we need as a society. Randy says, I would also say that a shitload of criticism should be going to the guy where his infidelity, he probably thought that he was like cool to a degree. He thought that he was, you know, being Chad by playing multiple girls at one time and getting an STD and infecting another girl. He probably thought that there was some kind of like machismo bravado thing. I think that should be beaten out of society as well. Randy says, does the legal definition of life need to be different than the scientific definition? The basic logistical problem of awarding two people the same civil rights when they exist in the same physical space? I don't know what question you're asking. I think I've gone over my position on abortion before, which is effectively under 18 weeks. Fetuses still have moral consideration, and I think abortion is bad. However, it should still be legal. And then I think that over 18 weeks, once a fetus starts having a central nervous system, it actually, in my opinion, should have the same moral considerations as a living, breathing human. Grasser says, I seriously did not think, but it's so sad it was fucking Ved Sunil again, lol. What, did you accidentally ban Ved Sunil? You can only time out, though. You can't permaban, right? Anyways, let's try to play another clip real quick and then engage with that. And then we are going to be back later tonight. I'll tell you about that in a second.
And I understand your point, Charlie, but I do think that the topic of abuse, the topic of deadbeat like dads, I don't think that really applies to any age, right? Yes, the younger women who get into these long-term relationships from a younger age are more likely to like be more naive and tolerate things, and women who are not educated and don't have a source of income are also more likely to tolerate like abusive behavior and things like that. But this can happen to anybody at any age, and again, like the reason.
Okay, they're still talking about women. I thought this was an incel panel, bro. I thought this was about Whick being an incel adjacent and a bunch of incels being in the Twitch and YouTube political community and the toxic political bullshit that they drag in with them. That's what I thought it was about. But realistically, we just talked about women. In general, I think that we went over some interesting things. I think it's too complicated for me to summarize accurately here. However, I would say that there's like degrees of competency. So I think we brought up physical attractiveness. We brought up financial success. We brought up emotional intelligence. We brought up compatibility for life goals. We brought up, self-confidence as like other domains of mastery that any human can engage in. And so as a result, you can increase your attractiveness through a haircut. I think I look better right now. I don't even have hair product, but I think if I have hair product now compared to when I just shaved my head and then grew out my beard, I think I look better right now. And then decent clothes and dressing well and having good hygiene. I think you can boost yourself 2 points by dressing well, having a decent haircut, and having good hygiene. And then when it comes to those other domains of competencies, those are completely within your powerhouse, within your wheelhouse. So yeah, don't be an incel. All right. Anyways, I'll see you guys in a few hours. I parasocially love you. Bye for now.